Chapter 303. The northernmost region of the cultivation realm was fraught with danger. Usually, there were no cultivators around. However, ever since the news of the reappearance of the Immortal Ascension platform spread, countless cultivators flocked to the northernmost region. Regardless of whether it was the younger generation of the various sects or the older generation of the various forces, especially the older generation of cultivators who had been cultivating behind closed doors, all came out of their nests and flocked towards the Immortal Ascension platform. After all, if they could enter the Immortal realm through the Immortal Ascension platform, their lifespan and strength would increase exponentially. If they couldn't enter the Immortal realm, then their lifespan would gradually deplete. As for the younger generation of cultivators, many of them wanted to enter the Immortal realm through the Immortal Ascension platform. As for people like Murong Yu, they wanted to broaden their horizons. It seems like we're being watched. On the way, Murong Yu, Little Ape King, Little Lion King, and Hutong had left Xianyang City for 3 days. With their speed, they were already tens of thousands of miles away from Xianyang City. With their combined strength, even a first-step immortal wouldn't dare to provoke them. However, they felt that they had been targeted ever since they left Xianyang City. Could it be Hui Tianyi or Chao Hongyan? Little Lion King's face revealed a trace of excitement. He didn't feel like he was being watched. It was as if he couldn't wait for Hui Tianyi and the others to attack. Maybe. Murong Yu's eyes flashed with killing intent. They didn't think Hui Tianyi or Chao Hongyan would be a threat to them. However, the fact that they were being watched made him angry. Let's finish them off before we continue. Murong Yu stopped and said in a low voice. Everyone else nodded in agreement. However, what infuriated Murong Yu and the others was that when they stopped, the people who were watching them also stopped and didn't reveal themselves. You're asking for it. A cold glint flashed through Murong Yu's eyes as he coldly snorted. His figure flashed as he took a step forward and disappeared from where he stood. Boom! At the same time, in the void tens of thousands of miles away from them, a monstrous hand carrying a terrifying aura slammed down on a mountain. We've been discovered. Hui Tianyi's expression changed slightly, and he also punched out. Boom! The power of the two sides collided violently in the void and then exploded. Instantly, the void with the collision as the center was shattered. The terrifying impact was like a tidal wave, crazily surged in all directions, shattering the void in its wake. In an instant, the endless mountain range on the ground was shattered, and several figures soared into the sky. Whoosh! 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 When the Little Ape King and the others saw that Murong Yu had forced their pursuers out with a single palm strike, they quickly teleported to Murong Yu's side and looked ahead. Hui Tianyi, Chao Hongyan. Other than the two of them, there were 2 other elders who emitted powerful auras. The 2 Immortal Ascension Immortal followed behind Hui Tianyi and Chao Hongyan. They should be their guardians. 2 Immortals in the first step. Murong Yu's eyes narrowed. Little Lion King and Little Lion King's faces turned solemn. 2 Immortals in the first step were enough to suppress them. 2 shameless people colluded together. TSK, equally shameless. Little Lion King took a step forward and sneered at Hui Tianyi and the other 3. It's enough to kill you. Hui Tianyi looked at Murong Yu with resentment and killing intent. Murong Yu was shocked. He did not expect Hui Tianyi and Chao Hongyan to be so bold as to kill Murong Yu and the others. Murong Yu was alone and did not have any backing. It was not surprising that they dared to kill him. However, Little Lion King and Little Lion King were Hutong, and they were one of the 10 great demon kings of Demon Mountain. Did these 2 really want to kill them? Were they not afraid of angering the demon kings? If that was the case, the Fecta sect and Yuan Su sect would not be able to withstand the anger of the 3 demon kings. I'm curious. What makes you think you can kill us? Do you really think that you can kill all of us with just a few of you? You should know that they have the demon king of Demon Mountain behind them. Murong Yu looked at Hui Tianyi and said indifferently, 2 immortals in the first step are enough to kill you. As for the demon king behind them, I just need to kill you and say that you killed each other. Who would suspect me? Hui Tianyi sneered. Good plan. Little Lion King took a step forward and looked at Hui Tianyi and the others with murderous intent. I can fight against a first-step immortal by myself. How about you? Muronyu turned to Little Lion King and the others and said, Little Lion King, and I can also fight against a first-step immortal. Little Lion King and Little Ape King looked at each other and said, although they were not as strong as a first-step immortal, they were not far off. Otherwise, Little Lion King would not have been chased by a first-step immortal for several months without being killed. Muronyu nodded and looked at Hutong. I'm confident that I can kill either Hui Tianyi or Chao Hongyan. Hutong said indifferently. Killing intent surged from her words. It was obvious that she wanted to kill. After all, the other party wanted to kill them all. As the descendant of the nine-tailed king, Hutong was not a soft-hearted person. Since that's the case, you suppress Hui Tianyi. Big Black Dog, Golden Ape, I'll leave Chao Hongyan to the two of you. If you can't kill him within the time it takes for a stick of incense to burn, don't say that you know me. Woof. You think too highly of that idiot. I alone can kill him. There was a look of disdain on the large black dog's face as he looked at Chao Hongyan. Fight quickly. You two kill Chao Hongyan first, then help Hutong kill Hui Tianyi. Then, we'll work together and kill their two protectors. Muronyu said coldly. Okay. A look of excitement appeared on everyone's faces. When they heard Muronyu's words, Hui Tianyi and the others were furious. They all looked at Muronyu and the others with livid expressions. This was especially true for Chao Hongyan and Hui Tianyi. From the tone of Muronyu and the others, he could feel naked contempt. Even the two protectors could not help but be filled with killing intent at this moment. A first-step immortal was a first-step immortal after all. They were looked down upon by a few juniors today. How could they not be angry? Attack! Muronyu shouted loudly. He took a step forward and rushed in front of Hui Tianyi's protector. Then, he threw a punch at him. At the same time, the others also locked onto their targets and started to fight. Rumble. In the battle between the peerless powerhouses, terrifying power swept across the sky. The void was constantly shattered, and the ground was also bombarded to the point that it sank. It was as if the world was turned upside down. You're courting death. Sun Feng, Hui Tianyi's protector, shouted angrily and also threw a punch at Muronyu. The power of both sides collided, and they were sent flying violently. I don't know if I'm courting death or not, but you guys are courting death. Today, you will die without a doubt. Muronyu sneered and began to increase his power to the limit. Suddenly, waves of black, chaotic power surrounded him tightly. Waves of terrifying aura burst out like a torrent. It was extremely terrifying. Thousand Army Elephant Fist. Muronyu roared as he took a step forward and arrived in front of Sun Feng. His fist smashed through the air as he ruthlessly aimed for Sun Feng's head. Sun Feng was shocked when he felt the terrifying aura of Muronyu. This aura was enough to threaten him. At that moment, he no longer underestimated Muronyu. He also began to increase his strength as a one-step immortal and attacked Muronyu. Today, you will be the first one-step immortal that I will kill alone. Muronyu roared and completely unleashed his powerful strength. He began to fight with Sun Feng. On the other side, the Little Lion King and the Little Ape King also unleashed their powerful strength and intercepted Chao Hongyan's protector. They fought until the sky collapsed and the earth cracked. The three of them used all their ultimate moves, causing the world to constantly shatter. It was extremely terrifying, as expected of the top 10 experts on the Dragon Phoenix list. When the two of them joined forces, they were actually on par with a one-step immortal. Meanwhile, the battle between Hutong and Hui Tianyi was extremely dangerous. This was the first time that Muronyu had seen Hutong fight. However, Hutong's strength shocked Muronyu. As soon as the battle started, Hui Tianyi, who was ranked 10th on the Dragon Phoenix list, was suppressed by Hutong. If it weren't for the fact that Hui Tianyi's strength wasn't weak, and that he also had the ultimate skills of his sect, he would have been killed by Hutong long ago. However, even so, he was still suffering greatly from Hutong's attacks. It was only a matter of time before he was defeated. After all the battles, the battle between the large black dog and the fire-eyed golden ape was the most relaxed. These two guys teamed up and directly killed Chow Hongyan, the chief disciple of the Fectus sect, who was ranked 25th on the Dragon Phoenix list. One had obtained the inheritance of a heavenly demon god, while the other was an ancient mutant beast, the heavenly dog. Both of them possessed extremely terrifying battle prowess. Moreover, Chow Hongyan's strength was the weakest among the people present. Even if he faced the fire-eyed golden ape and the large black dog separately, he was still no match for them, let alone the two of them working together. As soon as the battle started, Chow Hongyan fell into danger. Moreover, the large black dog and the fire-eyed golden ape weren't kind people either. They loved to hit others when they were down. Pung, pung, pung. The two of them roared repeatedly, killing Chow Hongyan until he had no temper and fled in all directions. In less than 15 minutes, Chow Hongyan had already been injured. Seeing this, everyone was shocked. They were stunned by the fire-eyed golden ape and the large black dog's strength. In particular, Chow Hongyan's protector roared repeatedly, wanted to break free from the little ape king and the small black dog's entanglement and rush over to save him. However, how could the little lion king and the small black dog let them escape? No matter how he roared, he was still firmly entangled by the little ape king and the little lion king, unable to break free. Chapter 304. Bang! As the fiery golden ape's staff smashed down, the head of Chow Hongyan, the chief disciple of the Fectus sect, exploded into a cloud of blood mist. After the saint child of the Tianji sect was killed by the little ape king, their chief disciple was also killed by someone else. Now, two of the three most outstanding disciples of the Fectus sect's younger generation had been killed. If the saint of the Fectus sect was also killed, then the most outstanding disciples of the Fectus sect's younger generation would all be killed. The saint and the chief disciple were killed one after another. If this news spread out, it would probably cause a commotion in the cultivation world. After all, in the past, the top figures of the younger generation of the major sects would never die. In the end, those experts either became the sect masters of their respective sects or became the elders of their respective sections. Of course, it did not mean that they would never die. They would die because they were training or killed by other dangers. It was not like they were killed by the experts of other sections. The saint and the chief disciple were both killed. This kind of thing had not happened in the cultivation world for many years. If today's news spread out, the Fectus sect would probably go crazy. All of you will die. He was furious when he saw Chow Hongyan being killed by the ape while his protector was entangled by the little ape king and lion king. He couldn't help Chow Hongyan at all. That's right. All of you will die. The little ape king sneered and increased the strength in his hands. However, because of his fury, Chow Hongyan's protector's strength actually increased. This made the little ape king and the little lion king feel a lot of pressure. There were even a few times where he almost escaped from the encirclement. Seeing that the little ape king and the big black dog had already rushed to Hutong's side and started attacking Hui Tianyi together with Hutong, the little ape king and the little lion king relaxed. As long as they killed Hui Tianyi, there would be 3 more experts on their side. At that time, the 5 of them could join forces and kill this one-step immortal. The little ape king and the little lion king became more and more excited at the thought of killing another one-step immortal. Their battle intent soared to the sky and the earth cracked. Hui Tianyi's strength was inferior to Hutong's in the first place. In his battle with Hutong, he was in great danger and was almost killed several times. Moreover, after the large black dog and the fire-eyed golden ape joined the fray, Hui Tianyi encountered an unprecedented crisis. Bang! The fire-eyed golden ape took a step forward and teleported behind Hui Tianyi. Then, it struck Hui Tianyi's head with its staff. This guy was getting more and more fond of sneak attacks, and he was getting more and more skilled. Even Hui Tianyi almost fell for it, and his head was almost smashed into pieces. Hui Tianyi teleported away from the fire-eyed golden ape's attack and punched at it. However, at this moment, the void shattered, and a huge dog paw broke through the obstruction of the void, viciously slamming towards him. Hui Tianyi roared angrily, and the fist that had been attacking the fire-eyed golden ape ruthlessly shattered the dog's paw, sending the large black dog flying. Although the large black dog was powerful, there was still some gap between him and Hui Tianyi. Thus, he was directly sent flying back. However, he was only forced back and was not injured at all. Hui Tianyi was enraged and teleported, wanting to rush up and kill the large black dog. However, Hu Tong appeared in front of him, a small, crystalline hand shattering the void, and lightly slapped towards him. Hui Tianyi's expression was grave. Hu Tong's small hand was light and looked like it did not have any strength. However, if he was hit by her, even Hui Tianyi would be severely injured. This was a lesson learned from the past. Bang! He exchanged another blow with Hu Tong, and then both of them were really sent flying. Bang! Bang! The void shattered, and Hui Tianyi had not steadied himself yet when the fire-eyed golden ape and the large black dog's attacks had already landed. The terrifying power shattered the void, forcing Hui Tianyi to take it head-on. Pooh! Hui Tianyi spat out a mouthful of blood wildly. Under the joint attack of the three people, he was directly beaten until he vomited blood. Although he was powerful, he was no match for Hu Tong and the other two at all. Especially Chao Hongyan's death made him very shocked. At this time, Hui Tianyi was very regretful. He originally thought that with their strength and the strength of the two one-step immortals, it would be enough to kill Murong Yu and the others. However, he did not expect Murong Yu and the others to be so powerful. Chao Hongyan's strength was also very strong, but he was killed by the seemingly unremarkable large black dog and the fire-eyed golden ape in less than half an hour. Hu Tong's strength was also slightly stronger than his. The Little Lion King and the Little Ape King's joint attack could actually tie with a one-step immortal. However, what shocked Hui Tianyi the most was Murong Yu. Murong Yu's strength was actually not inferior to Sun Feng's. One had to know that Sun Feng was a veteran one-step immortal. Originally, he had already overestimated Murong Yu, but after seeing Murong Yu's strength, he realized that he had still underestimated Murong Yu's strength. Otherwise, with his original plan, with the strength of the two one-step immortals and the two of them, he would have killed Murong Yu and the others long ago. This time, with Chao Hongyan's death, even if he was lucky enough to escape with his life, it would probably incur the wrath of the Fecta sect. After all, this time, he had taken the initiative to join forces with Chao Hongyan to kill Murong Yu and the others. Sun Feng, fight quickly, and kill Murong Yu. Hui Tianyi was in danger again and could not hold on much longer. Sun Feng also knew that Murong Yu was too strong. Under his storm-like attacks, he could not free himself to save Hui Tianyi at all. Under Murong Yu's attacks, he was also in danger. Even if he was distracted for a moment, he could be killed by Murong Yu. Great Vajra Wheel Seal. Murong Yu roared in his heart and struck out a huge handprint that was like a divine mountain. It shattered the void and ruthlessly smashed towards Sun Feng. At the same time, Murong Yu used the army formula and raised his speed to the limit. He rushed to Sun Feng's side as if he was teleporting and bombarded Sun Feng with punches and palms. Sun Feng was badly battered by Murong Yu's attacks, especially Murong Yu's teleportation, which made him curse in his heart. As long as a cultivator reached the tribulation stage, they would naturally comprehend teleportation. However, teleportation also consumed a lot of energy. Ordinary cultivators could not teleport for a long time, but Murong Yu was constantly teleporting as if he did not need any energy to support it. If it were an ordinary cultivator, they would have been exhausted from teleporting. Seeing Murong Yu constantly teleporting, not only Sun Feng, but also the others were shocked. In particular, the Little Ape King and the others realized that this was Murong Yu's true speed. Perhaps it was not. However, what Sun Feng and the others did not know was that Murong Yu was not just teleporting. It was a combination of teleportation and the army formula. After the combination of the two, not only did his speed soar, but it was also longer and faster than the teleportation distance of a one-step immortal. Moreover, the consumption was less than half of theirs. Most importantly, during the battle, the hundreds of millions of roots of the Tree of Life in Murong Yu's Dantian were constantly waving, transforming the chaotic energy in the void into Murong Yu's power. At this time, although Murong Yu had been increasing his strength to the limit, his power did not show any signs of depletion. It was already in a state of balance between consumption and absorption. Even a one-step immortal could not do this, so one could imagine how terrifying the Tree of Life was. After a round of battle, Sun Feng was already injured, but Murong Yu was still uninjured. In fact, it was not that he was not injured, but after being injured, the power of life gushed out, and these injuries quickly recovered. Monster! The more Sun Feng fought, the more frightened he became. His power was being consumed more and more. If he continued to fight like this, he might be killed by Murong Yu. However, seeing that Hui Tianyi was in danger again and again, he was furious. He increased his strength to the limit and crazily attacked Murong Yu. Under Sun Feng's madness, Murong Yu was forced to retreat. "Old man, you're courting death." Murong Yu was furious. With a thought, he took out the Yin-Yang cauldron, which carried the terrifying Yin-Yang fire that could burn the world, and attacked Sun Feng. Sun Feng forced Murong Yu to retreat. Just as he was about to teleport to Hui Tianyi's rescue, he suddenly felt an extremely dangerous aura coming toward him. Sun Feng's face changed suddenly. This aura was really terrifying and had locked onto him. If he did not block it, he might be seriously injured or even killed. What the hell? Sun Feng roared and punched upward. Boom! The Yin-Yang cauldron was like a divine mountain, pressing down and crushing the void. The yin-yang flames that filled the sky enveloped the entire area. Even the space around them was being burned, leaving ghastly holes in its wake. After a shocking explosion, the yin-yang cauldron was directly sent flying into the sky by Sun Feng's terrifying power. However, Sun Feng was also bombarded and flew backward, spitting out blood. It was a pity that the yin-yang flame could not touch Sun Feng. Otherwise, it might have directly burned Sun Feng to ashes. With a thought, Murong Yu attacked again with the Yin-Yang cauldron. At the same time, an incomparably huge banner appeared above their heads. It was the soul summoning banner. Murong Yu grabbed at the void in front of him with both hands. Immediately, the Yin-Yang bow and the sky-shaking arrow appeared in his hands. Then, Murong Yu drew the bow and shot an arrow at Sun Feng. At the same time, Murong Yu took a step forward and roared. He used the seventh move of the Dragon Elephant Prajna technique, the Dark God Prajna technique. Two god phantoms with incomparably terrifying auras suddenly appeared in the void, and then fiercely punched at Sun Feng. The terrifying aura that could destroy heaven and earth was like the attack of two god phantoms. It was extremely terrifying. Chapter 305. Whoosh! An almost invisible black lightning shot out from between Murong Yu's eyebrows. It disappeared into the void and shot towards Sun Feng. Yin-Yang cauldron, Yin-Yang fire, soul-summoning banner, sky-shattering arrow, Yin-Yang bow, dragon elephant prajna skill, great Vajra chakra seal, and black lightning. These attacks were Murong Yu's most powerful Dharma treasures and combat skills. Now, it poured out in an instant, covering the sky and covering the earth as it rushed towards Sun Feng. Even Sun Feng, a first-step immortal, was shocked when he saw the various attacks and magic treasures coming at him like a tidal wave. His face was solemn and his aura was violent. Divine light shot up into the sky. At the same time, a spiritual weapon, divine sword, appeared in his hand. Sun Feng furiously roared. Wielding his sword with both hands, he executed a sword technique and attacked Murong Yu's frightening power. He wanted to break all of Murong Yu's attacks with one blow. Seeing this, Murong Yu sneered. These were his most powerful attacks. With Sun Feng's strength, he might be able to break some of them. However, he could not break so many of them at the same time. However, after using all of his most powerful combat skills and Dharma treasures, Murong Yu felt a sense of emptiness. He had consumed too much energy. Even with the tree of life absorbing the chaotic energy, he had consumed more than 80% of his energy. Morongyu was helpless. He could only control the tree of life to absorb the chaotic energy even more crazily and recover his energy quickly. Morongyu was very powerful and was on par with Sun Feng. Sun Feng frowned when he used all of his strength to attack with his combat skills. At this moment, Sun Feng slashed out with his sword. A terrifying aura burst out and shattered the void as he slashed forward. However, just as Sun Feng's attack was about to collide with the yin-yang cauldron and sky-shattering arrow, a strong sense of danger appeared in Sun Feng's heart. Oh no! Sun Feng let out a loud roar and immediately retreated. During this process, he also retracted the power he had unleashed and slashed at the void in front of him. Boom! The terrifying power tore the void into pieces. Pooh! A powerful force carrying the power of thunder and lightning surged over. A numbing feeling appeared on Sun Feng's body, tearing his clothes to shreds. Furthermore, the power of lightning had almost paralyzed his power, causing the circulation of his power to slow down slightly. Sun Feng spat out a mouthful of blood upon receiving this attack, and his entire body was instantly sent flying. Chi! The sky-shaking arrow shot out of the void and turned into a golden light. It shot towards Sun Feng at lightning speed, wanting to kill him. Sun Feng's expression changed drastically when he felt the terrifying power contained in the sky-shaking arrow. In the process of flying backward, he gathered all his strength and slashed at the heaven-shaking arrow. Rumble! A terrifying power erupted, and Sun Feng once again spat out a mouthful of blood as he was sent flying. Furthermore, the terrifying power even sent the spiritual weapon in his hand flying. Sun Feng was horrified and began to circulate his power madly. However, he was shocked to discover that there were traces of black energy flowing through his body. It was rapidly destroying his physical body, and his meridians were also filled with this black energy. Black lightning. Not only was the black lightning destroying his physical body, but it was also destroying his meridians. It was his power. At this moment, Sun Feng's power was only circulating at 50% of his usual speed. With his power circulation blocked, Sun Feng's strength instantly decreased by 50%. This made him extremely shocked. He was shocked by the power of the black lightning. However, his shock could not stop Morongyu's attack. The God Fiend punched out, and the terrifying power once again sent Sun Feng flying backward while spitting out blood. The powerful and terrifying power almost shattered Sun Feng's physical body. What made Sun Feng most aggrieved was that the soul summoning banner was violently swaying above his head. Waves of inexplicable power directly acted on his spiritual meridians, trying to pull his soul out of his body, causing his soul to be in excruciating pain. As a result, Sun Feng could only use less than 40% of his usual strength. Rumble! The yin-yang cauldron was like a divine mountain pressing down rapidly, almost crushing Sun Feng into pieces. Cough, cough! Sun Feng spat out a mouthful of blood as he was blasted deep into the ground. Chi-chi! The sharp sound of something breaking through the air was constantly heard. The yin-yang fire spewed out from the yin-yang cauldron, covering a radius of dozens of miles. The void and the earth were directly burned into powder. Sun Feng turned pale with fright, incomparably horrified. He could feel the terror of the yin-yang fire. He knew that if the yin-yang fire got close to him, he would definitely die. Therefore, he desperately used his power to form a shield around his body to resist the burning of the yin-yang fire. As a first-step immortal, Sun Feng's strength was very strong. If he used his power to form a shield, even a first-step immortal would not be able to break it in a short time. However, it was completely vulnerable in front of the yin-yang fire. Wherever the yin-yang fire passed, Sun Feng's shield would directly burn. Yin-yang cauldron, kill him for me. Morongyu took a step forward and appeared not far in front of Sun Feng. He pointed his finger, and the yin-yang cauldron immediately pressed down. Puff! At the same time, the sky-shaking arrow that Sun Feng had pushed back earlier shot out again and directly shot one of Sun Feng's legs. The excruciating pain from the broken leg made Sun Feng let out an extremely shrill cry. However, at this time, the Black Lightning and the Soul-Summoning Banner were still crazily bombarding him, so he could not use half of his strength. Bang! The Yin-Yang Cauldron pressed down and directly smashed Sun Feng's power shield. Once again, Sun Feng was suppressed deep into the ground, almost smashing his body into meat paste. Chi-Chi. The moment the power shield was broken, the yin-yang fire that filled the sky rushed straight in. Sun Feng let out a miserable cry. He was directly burned by the yin-yang fire and couldn't be more dead. As soon as Sun Feng died, Murong Yu could not help but stagger and almost fall from the void. This was the first time he had thrown out so many killing moves in an instant. The consumption of power was secondary. The key was that controlling so many Dharma treasures at once exhausted Murong Yu's mental strength. The exhaustion of mental strength and mental strength was more terrifying than the exhaustion of physical strength. Hearing Sun Feng's continuous screams, Hui Tianyi and Chao Hongyan's protector in the distance became more and more shocked. Especially when they saw Sun Feng being killed, they were so shocked that their faces turned pale. Especially Hui Tianyi, he knew Sun Feng's strength. But now, Murong Yu had single-handedly killed him. There were so many people before, and they were no match for them. Now that Sun Feng and Chao Hongyan were killed, the two of them were even less of a match. They were in imminent danger. Hui Tianyi's face was pale. He knew that he had miscalculated this time. It was very likely that he would die here today. However, no one wanted to die. Therefore, even though they were terrified, they roared again and again. Once again, they unleashed an even stronger strength and crazily attacked their enemies, wanting to escape. Even Chao Hongyan's protector was terrified at this time. Originally, he wanted to kill the little ape king and the others to avenge Chao Hongyan. However, after seeing Sun Feng die, he only had the thought of escaping in his mind. Chao Hongyan's death could be reluctantly said that he was not strong enough. But Sun Feng's death made them very shocked. He knew that Sun Feng was stronger than him, but even so, he was killed by Murong Yu alone. At this time, Murong Yu did not look very good. His face was pale, and he looked like he had exhausted himself. However, he had already been killed. The little ape king and the others were also shocked by Murong Yu's strength. Murong Yu could actually kill a one-step immortal by himself. This made them feel a lot of pressure, and this pressure quickly turned into their motivation. In an instant, they unleashed an even stronger strength and fought with their opponents. Murong Yu recovered a little, then stepped on the void and slowly walked in the direction of the battle. Hui Tianyi and Chao Hongyan's protector. Chao Hongyan's protector was much stronger than Hui Tianyi. He was also a one-step immortal. Even if Murong Yu attacked him, he would not be able to kill him in a short time unless Murong Yu used all his trump cards. However, Murong Yu's mind was too exhausted at this time, and he could not use so many Dharma treasures. In the end, he looked at Hui Tianyi. Sensing Murong Yu's murderous gaze, Hui Tianyi watched as the pale-faced Murong Yu stepped through the void and walked towards him step by step. This caused Hui Tianyi's heart to grow even more terrified. Terrifying power constantly erupted from his body, trying to break free from the attacks of Hu Tong and the others and escape. However, Hu Tong, the fire-eyed golden ape, and the big black dog worked together. How could they let him escape? Murong Yu stepped on the void and came near Hui Tianyi. Hui Tianyi, it's fine if I don't provoke you, but you actually provoked me. You're courting death. Hui Tianyi's face was filled with fear. He regretted it so much. He regretted not bringing more experts over. That way, he would definitely be able to kill Murong Yu and the others. However, everything was over. The outcome could not be changed. Murong Yu sneered and punched at Hui Tianyi. Originally, under the attacks of Hu Tong and the others, Hui Tianyi was already in danger and could be killed at any time. The addition of an expert like Murong Yu had sped up Hui Tianyi's death. Hu Tong's power condensed into a sharp sword and directly cut off Hui Tianyi's head. Blood spurted into the sky, and Hui Tiany's head also flew into the sky. Even in death, his face was still filled with fear and regret. "You bastards! Why aren't you coming over to help? We can't hold on any longer." Seeing that Hui Tiany was killed, the little Lion King roared angrily. Murong Yu and the others looked over and saw that under the counterattack of Chao Hongyan's Path Protector, the little Ape King and the little Lion King were in danger. If they did not risk their lives to stop Chao Hongyan's Path Protector, the other party would have already escaped. Chapter 306. Murong Yu and the others didn't hesitate when they heard the little Lion King's roar. They immediately pounced forward. Although Chao Hongyan's protector was a first-step immortal, he was much stronger than anyone except for Murong Yu. However, the little Ape King and the others weren't weak either. Especially Murong Yu, who killed Sun Feng on his own. He was strong enough to kill Chao Hongyan's protector, not to mention the little Ape King and the others. Under Murong Yu and the others' unrestrained attacks, Chao Hongyan's protector roared angrily but was eventually killed. After killing Chao Hongyan's protector, the chief disciple of the Fectus sect, the Saint, and 2 first-step immortals were all killed. If news of this battle spread, it would probably cause a stir in the cultivation world. As for the Fectus sect, they would probably go all out to hunt down Murong Yu and the others. One could even imagine how furious the Fectus sect would be. Perhaps the Fectus sect would also be furious with the little Ape King and the others, but they wouldn't go overboard. It was very likely that they would vent their anger on Murong Yu. After all, Murong Yu didn't have a strong background. Just like the little Ape King, the Fectus sect also dared to hunt down the giant Ape King for a few months because the giant Ape King was nearing the end of his life. After killing these 4 experts, everyone first looked at each other, then laughed heartily. They laughed very happily. Even Hu Tong had a smile on her face. They were all outstanding figures of the younger generation and were extremely powerful. However, not long ago, although they were powerful, they didn't have any battle achievements. Perhaps they killed transformation stage cultivators, or perhaps they killed half-immortal experts as well. However, before meeting Murong Yu, only the little Ape King had killed the Fectus sect Yu. This was the first time they had killed an important figure and caused the Fectus sect to hunt them down. Then, they met Murong Yu and worked together to kill a first-step immortal from the Fectus sect. That was the first time they killed a first-step immortal. Today, not only did they kill the chief disciple of Fecta, but they also killed the chief disciple of Origin Void and his Tao protector. 3 holy sons had been killed by them, and Murong Yu had single-handedly killed Ma Tianyun. Several young experts of this generation had already been killed by Murong Yu or were killed because of Murong Yu. The little Ape King and the others laughed loudly, feeling extremely carefree in their hearts. Previously, they were also arrogant and conceited. However, they had never thought of killing a first-step immortal. But today they had done it. Under the influence of Murong Yu, he killed 2 one-step immortals. Stop laughing. Isn't he just a one-step immortal? Murong Yu glanced at them and said indifferently, "I'm afraid there will be many eminent celestials on this trip to the Immortal Ascension Plateau. Let's see if you have the ability to kill them." The little Ape King and the others were stunned. Then they smiled bitterly. They could barely kill a first-step immortal, let alone an eminent celestial who was many times stronger than a first-step immortal. They did not even think about it. No matter where Murong Yu goes, something big will happen. With his personality, he won't provoke an eminent celestial, right? Everyone looked at Murong Yu with a strange expression on their faces. With Murong Yu's personality, it was normal for him to provoke an eminent celestial. However, although Murong Yu was strong enough to kill a first-step immortal, he was not strong enough in front of an eminent celestial. Sensing their strange expressions, Murong Yu only smiled. He did not care at all and sat cross-legged on the ground to recover his strength. Seeing this, the others also sat cross-legged. In this battle, they had more or less suffered serious injuries. Their injuries were secondary. The key was that they had gained a lot from the battle with a first-step immortal. As long as they digested the experience, their strength would increase again. Murong Yu was the same. In front of the terrifying life force of the Tree of Life, his injuries were nothing. He could recover quickly. Even his mind, which had been severely damaged, was quickly recovering. At this moment, Murong Yu was digesting the experience of the battle with Sun Foam. After half a day, most of the injuries on their bodies had been healed. After comprehending the experience of the battle, everyone's strength had increased. With their current strength, it was much easier for them to fight with Chao Hongyan and the others. Freak! The little ape king and the others could not help but say when they saw Murong Yu, who was still sitting cross-legged on the ground. Before he entered a meditative state, Murong Yu's body was covered in shocking wounds and his face was pale. However, all the wounds on Murong Yu's body had disappeared. There were no scars at all. If they had not seen it with their own eyes, they would not have believed that Murong Yu had been injured. Murong Yu's pale face had also recovered its rosy color. How did he look like he had been injured? Murong Yu opened his eyes and saw everyone staring at him. He could not help but frown and say, "What? Is there something on my face?" Freak! The little ape king and the others said these words. Their voices were filled with jealousy. Murong Yu smiled faintly. He naturally knew what they were jealous of. It was his powerful strength and his terrifying recovery ability. How is it? Looking at everyone's energetic appearance, I'm afraid you all have a lot of gains, right? Murong Yu asked with a smile. Our strength has improved. If we fight with them again, it will be much easier. The little Lion King said with a smile. The others also nodded in agreement. How's your gain? Hutong looked at Murong Yu and asked. These people's aptitudes were top-notch among the younger generation, especially Murong Yu. Their strength had improved, but Murong Yu's gain was much more than theirs. I've improved a little. If I were to face Sun Feng now, I wouldn't even need to use all my trump cards to kill him, Murong Yu said with a smile. Although they did not break through their cultivation level, their strength was much stronger than before. He even felt that he could kill Sun Feng without using the bow of the universe, the Yin Yang Cauldron, or the Soul Summoning Banner. At this moment, his strength had truly reached the first step in mortal realm. He was no longer only able to fight against a first step in mortal realm. Freak! The little ape king and the others glared at Murong Yu. They did not hide their jealousy. All right, let's hurry to the Immortal Ascension platform. If we're late, we won't be able to see anything. As he spoke, Murong Yu took off the storage rings of Sun Feng and the others. He had no choice. He had a large family and a lot of resources. He was under a lot of pressure. As soon as Murong Yu and the others left, some cultivators passed by. When they saw the corpses of Hui Tianyi and the others, they were shocked. Not long after, the news of Hui Tianyi, Chao Hongyan, and their protectors' corpses spread. It shocked the cultivation world once again. Although no one saw who killed Hui Tianyi and the others, when they thought of the scene in Xianyang City, they immediately pointed the finger at Murong Yu and the others. Two young elites who were infinitely close to the strength of a first-step immortal and two veteran first-step immortals were killed by someone. While the cultivation world was shocked, Yuan Su sect and Fecta sect were also furious. Especially the Fecta sect. How could they not be angry when their holy son and first disciple were killed? Two of the top 10 sects were enraged, and the cultivation world was shaken a few times. Did you know? The first disciple of Fecta sect and Yuan Su sect and their protectors were killed. Their corpses were left in the wilderness. I've long heard about it. Two veteran first-step immortals and two experts of the younger generation whose strength has almost reached the first-step immortal realm were killed just like that. Rumor has it that they were killed by Murong Yu alone. Is his strength that terrifying? It's said that Murong Yu has already reached the half-step immortal realm. Isn't it easy for him to kill first-step immortals? What's so strange about that? How is that possible? Murong Yu has only cultivated for about 20 years, right? He reached the half-step immortal realm in 20 years. Someone obviously didn't believe it. Whether you believe it or not, those people were killed by Murong Yu alone. Right now, Yuan Su sect and Fecta sect are looking for him. It's said that whoever kills Murong Yu will become the leader of their sect and enjoy the treatment of a grand elder. F***CK. If I can kill Muronyu, doesn't that mean I can become their supreme elder? If I use their resources, I might even be able to become an immortal. Idiot, you want to kill Muronyu with your strength? He can kill you with a sneeze. Do you think you'll go home? Dream on. Not long after, the cultivation world was talking about the deaths of Hui Tianyi and Chao Hongyan. Even the cultivators on the way to the Immortal Ascension platform were talking about it. Hearing the crowd's discussion, Muronyu staggered and almost fell from the sky. Then, he gritted his teeth and looked at the little ape king and the others angrily. You're also responsible for killing Hui Tianyi and the others. Why are you only looking for me? Seeing Murongyu's expression, the little ape king and the others laughed. It's a matter of character. Who asked you to have such a bad character? Ha! In reality, anyone with a discerning eye could see that no matter how strong Muronyu was, he would not be able to kill Hui Tianyi and the others unless he triggered the heavenly tribulation again. But that was impossible. The reason why they only wanted Muronyu was because of the little ape king and the others' backgrounds. Behind them were the Demon Mountain's demon kings. None of them were weaker than the 10 great sects. Moreover, because of the Immortal Ascension platform, both the human and demon races experts had come out. If the Fectus sect and the Yuanshu sect dared to arrest the little ape king and the others, they would probably attract the attention of their backers. Therefore, they knew that the little ape king and the others were also responsible for killing Hui Tianyi and the others. They only wanted Muronyu because he had no background. Of course, this was only on the surface. Muronyu and the others did not believe that they would not secretly send out experts to kill the little ape king and the others. As long as they found the opportunity, they would definitely kill the little ape king and the others. Chapter 307. Muronyu was extremely disdainful of the Primal Void sect and the Fectus sect for bullying the weak and fearing the strong. Of course, Muronyu was not afraid of being wanted by the two sections. At his level, as long as the other party's half-step immortals did not make a move, Muronyu would not be afraid even if they were one-step immortals. If the other party did not have many experts, Muronyu would kill all of them. In fact, Muronyu could not wait for the experts from these sects to come and kill him. It was impossible to reason with people like them. Whoever had the bigger fist was the law. If he did not want to be wanted by them, he would have to use his fist to scare them and force them to withdraw their wanted orders. You guys should be careful too. Muronyu looked at the little ape king and the others and said. The little ape king nodded. They naturally knew that it was not as simple as just wanting to arrest Muronyu. However, as long as they stayed with Muronyu and the others, even the Fectus sect and the Primal Void sect would not be able to do anything to them. We'll reach the Immortal Ascension stage in a few days. The few of them did not stop and continued to fly forward at high speed. The closer they got to the Immortal Ascension stage, the more cultivators they encountered. They even saw a few half-step immortals. Along the way, no one dared to provoke Muronyu and the others. They were secretly happy that Muronyu did not cause trouble for them. Of course, Muronyu and the others were also very quiet these few days. After all, the closer they got to the Immortal Ascension stage, the more experts there would be. It was better for them to be quiet. Boom, boom, boom. However, they wanted to be quiet, but someone did not want them to be quiet. Right in front of them, waves of terrifying ripples spread out continuously. Amidst the waves of earth-shattering noises, there were angry shouts. There were experts fighting in front of them. Muronyu and the others looked at each other and did not stop. Instead, they flew forward. With their team, as long as their opponent was not an eminent celestial, they could do whatever they wanted. A few thousand li away, two groups of people were engaged in an intense battle. Terrifying energy ripples kept spreading out, causing the sky to fall and the earth to crack. The ground sank and blood flowed like a river. Ah! When he saw the people fighting in front of him, Muronyu exclaimed in surprise. You know them? Hutong glanced at Muronyu and asked. You can say that I know him. Muronyu looked at the young man who was fighting in the field. An inexplicable smile appeared on his face. I didn't expect this guy who only knows how to cheat others to be so powerful. Huh? Murong Yu's brows suddenly furrowed, and his face turned gloomy. Hu Tong, who was beside him, felt an ice-cold, murderous aura emanating from his body. It was extremely terrifying. Hu Tong looked at Murong Yu in shock. At this moment, Murong Yu had already calmed down. He said slowly, "Both sides are familiar with each other. Since we've met, we have to fight." At the same time, Murong Yu looked at Hu Tong and the others and said, "I have some private matters to deal with. If you don't want to participate, wait for me to come back." At the same time, Murong Yu said goodbye to the big black dog and the fire-eyed golden ape. Then, he took a step forward and disappeared. Nangong Yuan was covered in blood. His body shone brightly, and his murderous aura soared into the sky. His attacks were ruthless. As he waved his hands, waves of energy shot out, shattering the void and attacking the people of the Fong family. He was the successor of the Nangong family. This time, the Immortal Ascension platform had reappeared in the cultivation world. Most of the older generation of the Nangong family had gone to the Immortal Ascension platform in advance. As the successor of the Nangong family, Nangong Yuan naturally led the younger generation of the Nangong family to the Immortal Ascension platform along with some protectors and elders. While increasing their knowledge, they could also gain experience. Not only the Nangong family, but other forces also did the same. However, Nangong Yuan didn't expect that they would be ambushed by their archenemy, the Fong family. 2 half-immortals of the Nangong family were killed in an instant. These were 2 half-immortals. In first-rate forces like them, which only had first-step immortals, half-immortals were definitely the top existences in the family. After all, first-rate forces were different from super forces. In super forces, although there weren't many half-immortals, there were still quite a few. For behemoths like the 10 great sects, even if they had half-immortals, they had more half-immortals than these families. The death of one half-immortal was definitely a huge loss for the Nangong family, let alone 2. Although his strength had reached the half-immortal level, the Fong family's strength was also not bad. They even had 5 half-immortals. In addition, the successor of the Fong family also had strength comparable to a half-immortal. The Fong family had 6 half-immortals. As for the Nangong family, they originally only had 5 half-immortals, including Nangong Yuan. However, in an instant, 2 of their half-immortals were killed. If nothing unexpected happened, the disciples of Nangong Yuan who came out this time would be completely annihilated. They were all the elites of the Nangong family's younger generation. Seeing 2 half-immortals being killed by the other party and about to die at any time, and the other disciples of the Nangong family were continuously dying, the fury in Nangong Yuan's heart became even more berserk. Nangong Yuan, let's see how you will die this time. Fong Qing used all his big moves to kill Nangong Yuan. He became even more complacent. Nangong Yuan's strength was originally above his, but just now he was heavily injured by a palm strike from the Fong family's half-immortal. Otherwise, Fong Qing wouldn't have been able to force him into a corner. "Fong Qing, you bastard! If I escape with my life today, I will definitely exterminate the Fong family in the future. Not even a chicken or dog will be spared." Nangong Yuan spat out a mouthful of blood and said while gnashing his teeth, "Exterminate the Fong family." Fong Qing looked at Nangong Yuan with disdain. "Today your Nangong family's people will all die. You want to exterminate my Fong family? In your next life." While speaking, Fong Qing's palm landed on Nangong Yuan's body and sent him flying while spitting out blood. "Young master." Seeing Nangong Yuan was sent flying, Nangong family's people shouted loudly, especially those 2 half-immortals. They wished they could kill the 5 half-immortals who were entangling them. However, the other party had 5 half-immortals after all. It was already a miracle that they were able to persist until now without being killed. How could they still go and save Nangong Yuan? As for the other disciples of the Nangong family, at this moment, there were only a few of them left. Almost all of them were dead. After all, with the lack of high-level experts, Nangong family was destined to not be Fong family's opponent. Could it be that my Nangong family will be exterminated by the despicable and shameless Fong family? A half-immortal directly killed a half-immortal of the Fong clan while risking being hit by the opponent's fist. However, he was also heavily injured. It was only a matter of time before he was killed. However, they were unwilling to accept this. These were the elites of Nangong family's younger generation. Nangong family still had to rely on these people in the future. If these people were all killed, then there would be a gap in Nangong family's talents. They might even be exterminated by Fong family. After all, if they were all killed, Nangong family would lose 5 half-immortal experts. With such a disastrous loss, how could Nangong family preserve their power? Nangong Yuan was furious. He forcefully increased his power and charged forward. However, he was heavily injured after all. How could he be Fong Qing's opponent? Fong Qing laughed heartily as he charged forward and sent Nangong Yuan flying with a punch. Nangong Yuan was injured again. His injury was even more serious. He was even less Fong Qing's opponent. At the same time, Nangong Yuan looked around and discovered that there were less than 20 Nangong family's younger generation experts left after being slaughtered by Fong Qing. Nangong Yuan was furious. He was unwilling to accept this, but now he couldn't even increase his power. He could only look at Fong Qing with resentment. Fong Qing laughed heartily as he charged in front of Nangong Yuan, and then fiercely slapped his palm towards Nangong Yuan's head. Nangong Yuan sighed in his heart. Even if he was at his peak, he wouldn't dare to take Fong Qing's palm strike head-on, let alone now, when he couldn't even gather his power. He could only wait for death. Even so, Nangong Yuan still looked at Fong Qing with a furious expression. His eyes were unblinking, and they were filled with crazy, killing intent. Seeing this scene, the other members of Nangong family shouted angrily. However, they were helpless against the strength of their enemy. They knew that if a miracle didn't appear, they would undoubtedly die today. However, a miracle really did appear. Nangong Yuan looked at Fong Qing with killing intent. He wasn't afraid, even if he died. But suddenly, a wisp of shock appeared in his eyes. Bang! A large hand suddenly descended from the sky, and before Fong Qing could react, it actually directly slapped him into a bloody mist. The blood and flesh splattered all over Nangong Yuan. A one-step immortal? At this moment, Nangong Yuan was stunned. He couldn't even react in time. A one-step immortal actually attacked. Could this be a miracle? Big Black Dog, kill everyone from the Fong clan. The one who saved Nangong Yuan was precisely Murongyu. With his strength, killing Fong Qing, who had just entered the half-immortal realm, with a single palm strike was extremely easy. Without waiting for Murongyu to speak, the Big Black Dog and the fire-eyed golden ape had already charged into the crowd and started slaughtering. A one-step immortal, seeing Murongyu descend from the sky and directly slap Fong Qing to death. The 5 half-immortals of Fong family were stunned. Then, they reacted and turned to flee. In front of a one-step immortal, the half-immortals were like ants. "Where do you think you're going?" Murongyu snorted coldly. He stretched out his hand and directly grabbed a half-immortal of Fong family who wanted to escape. Then, he clenched his hand, and with a bang, this half-immortal was crushed to death by Murongyu. Seeing this scene, the others were shocked. Directly crushing a half-immortal to death. How terrifying was his strength? While everyone was shocked, Murongyu flipped his hand and blasted another half-immortal into dust with a single punch. At the same time, the Big Black Dog and the fire-eyed golden ape also found the other 2 half-immortals of Fong family. It didn't take long for them to be beaten to death. "You bastards of the Fong clan, go to hell." Seeing the 4 half-immortals of Fong family instantly killed, the half-immortal of Nangong family, who still had the ability to fight, was stunned. Then, he roared and began to slaughter the other disciples of Fong family. Chapter 308. Without the existence of a half-immortal level expert, coupled with the fact that the Fong family's people were already scared out of their wits, it didn't take long for them to be completely slaughtered by the Nangong family's half-immortals and the few remaining disciples. Ha! The Nangong family members couldn't help but laugh. However, their laughter was filled with grief and indignation. This time, there were less than 10 people left from the 100-plus young elites. Even though they had killed all of the Fong family members, the Nangong family had suffered heavy losses. Why did you save us? Nangong Yuan smiled bitterly as he looked at the black-robed young man in front of him. He had wanted to trick Fong Jingji, but in the end, he had been tricked by Fong Jingji until he vomited 3 liters of blood. When he first met Murongyu, although Murongyu was powerful, he didn't seem to be as strong as Nangong Yuan. In a short period of time, Murongyu had become so strong that he could kill a first-step immortal. He had even killed Fong Qing, who was only slightly weaker than him, with a single palm strike. Nangong Yuan couldn't catch up to Fong Zhongji's strength and speed of growth. I don't like them, Murongyu said indifferently. Nangong Yuan was stunned. Then he smiled bitterly. Yes, he just didn't like them, so he killed them all. This person was indeed as domineering as the rumors said. However, when he thought about how he had wanted to trick Fong Jingji, cold sweat poured down his back. He thought that if Murongyu had really been tricked by him, he would have been killed long ago. Nangong Yuan looked at Murongyu with lingering fear. He felt lucky. You're from the Nangong family. With your strength, it would be easy for you to be killed, Murongyu said indifferently as he looked at Nangong Yuan and the others. Nangong Yuan's face was bitter. If they hadn't been ambushed by the Fong family, they wouldn't have been so miserable. Moreover, the older generation of the Nangong family members were at the Immortal Ascension stage. As long as they rushed to the Immortal Ascension stage, they would be safe. However, in their current state, they definitely wouldn't be able to reach the Immortal Ascension stage. They would be killed before they could reach it. After all the powerful cultivators in the cultivation world were heading towards the Immortal Ascension stage. Thank you. I will definitely repay today's kindness, Nangong Yuan said solemnly. Murongyu only shook his head and returned to the side of the little ape king and the others. Then he soared into the sky and flew forward. From the beginning until the end, the little ape king and the others did not make a move. With Murongyu, the fiery-eyed golden ape, and the large black dog making a move, it was already very bullying. If the little ape king and the others also made a move, the Fong clan still didn't have a right to do so. Along the way, Murongyu and the others encountered more and more cultivators. During the process, there were a number of blind cultivators who wanted to kill Murongyu and the others. After all, the position of Grand Elder of Origin Void Sect and Fectus Sect was very tempting. However, because of the Immortal Ascension platform, most cultivators dared to go there. No one was willing to stay. Compared to ascending to immortality, what was the Grand Elder of Yuanshu Sect? Even becoming their sect master was far inferior to ascending to immortality. Therefore, those who wanted to kill Murongyu were all itinerant cultivators. There were not even first-step immortals. Murongyu was too lazy to make a move. He left them all to the fiery-eyed golden ape and the large black dog. They killed their way forward. After many days, they were already close to the Immortal Ascension stage. There were more and more cultivators. The Lianluo mountain range was a huge mountain range that stretched endlessly. It was almost the same size as the Demon Mountain. There were countless ferocious beasts here. It was an inconspicuous mountain range in the extreme north of the cultivation world. Usually, there was nothing special about this mountain range. Moreover, there were many powerful ferocious beasts here. Therefore, it was difficult to find people. However, at this time, the Lianluo mountain range was filled with powerful cultivators who were rushing over from the south. The weakest of them was at the body integration stage. The strongest were even half-immortals. Just as Murongyu and the others approached the Lianluo mountain range, they sensed powerful auras soaring into the sky from the mountain range. These were the auras of cultivators. In addition, there was also a powerful aura that surpassed all other cultivators. It was extremely terrifying. From afar, besides the cultivators who were rushing over, a huge golden light shot up into the sky from the depths of the Lianluo mountain range. It pierced through the clouds and connected the earth and the sky. That should be the light from the immortal ascension stage, right? That powerful aura should be coming from the immortal ascension stage, right? Murong-Yu exclaimed in shock as he looked at the intense, but not dazzling golden light and sensed the aura that was as vast as the ocean. The others also looked at the golden light in front of them excitedly. Although they had never thought of using the immortal ascension stage to ascend to the immortal realm, it was still an immortal ascension stage. Who wouldn't be excited about something that could help them ascend? Let's go and take a look. Murong-Yu shot up into the sky and rushed towards the immortal ascension stage. The immortal ascension stage was located at the highest peak in the center of the Lianluo mountain range. It was hundreds of thousands of miles away from Murong-Yu and the others. For an ordinary person, this distance would take them several lifetimes to cover. However, with Murong-Yu and the others rushing over, it didn't take long for them to cover it. The highest peak of the Lianluo mountain range was so tall that it pierced through the sky. It was majestic and magnificent. At this moment, a huge altar that was hundreds of miles wide stood at the peak of the mountain. It shone with a dazzling golden light. The golden light it emitted was like a golden bridge that connected the altar to the sky. It was so tall that one couldn't see the top of it. Majestic, magnificent, and impactful. This should be the legendary immortal ascension stage, right? Murong-Yu was completely stunned when he saw the huge altar. So this was the immortal ascension stage. It was so stunning. Like Murong-Yu, the cultivators who had just seen the immortal ascension stage were all stunned by its magnificence. Even those who had been here for a long time were deeply shocked. Just as Murong-Yu and the others were dazed by the immortal ascension stage, a cold snort came from behind them, jolting Murong-Yu and the others back to their senses. Murong-Yu, the little ape king, and the others were enraged when they heard the cold snort that was filled with killing intent. Get off this mountain. Before the cold snort could finish, an angry roar came from behind them. At the same time, a terrifying wave of energy erupted, enveloping Murong-Yu and the others and sending them flying. You're courting death. Murong-Yu and the others were enraged. Even Hutong was enraged. Anyone who was attacked for no reason would be unhappy. Murong-Yu turned around and saw an old man glaring at him with murderous intent. Other than the old man, there were dozens of other cultivators on the mountain. There were cultivators in the tribulation stage, transformation stage, and even half-immortal stage. However, there was only one first-step immortal. You're courting death. A trace of chilling, killing intent flashed across Murong-Yu's brows as he looked at the half-immortal expert and sneered. You're merely a half-immortal. You won't be able to withstand a single blow. As he spoke, he took a step forward and disappeared. The first-step immortal, who had been resting with his eyes closed, opened his eyes the moment Murong-Yu disappeared. At the same time, he shouted, "Danger!" At the same time, he slapped the half-immortal stage expert. However, how could Murong-Yu, who already had the intention to kill, allow them to act so presumptuously? With a loud bang, the half-immortal stage expert who had used his aura to suppress Murong-Yu exploded. He had been killed by Murong-Yu with a single punch. Seeing this, everyone was shocked. They all looked at Murong-Yu in horror. However, the first-step immortal shouted angrily. He flipped his big hand and slapped Murong-Yu, who had appeared in the void. Old man, I'll send you to the immortal world now. Murong-Yu sneered and punched out fiercely. Boom! The power of the two sides collided fiercely in the void and then directly exploded. The terrifying impact instantly tore the void apart and spread out in all directions. Puff! The first-step immortal's big hand couldn't withstand a single blow and was shattered. On the other hand, he felt a sweet taste in his throat and spat out a mouthful of blood. The first-step immortal couldn't withstand a single blow. He couldn't even withstand a single blow from Murong-Yu. That was a first-step immortal. The surrounding people were shocked. Even the little ape king and the others were shocked. After a long time, they said, "This freak's strength has improved again. Kill him." Everyone was shocked by Murong Yu's strength. However, one of the half-immortals reacted. He shouted and punched at Murong Yu. At the same time, the others reacted and attacked Murong Yu at the same time. You're all courting death. Seeing these people attacking, the little ape king and the others sneered. They teleported into the crowd and started killing. As for Murong Yu, he had already locked onto the only first step immortal on the opposing side. Step by step, he charged towards him. Sensing Murong Yu's strength, the first step immortal was shocked. He didn't expect this group of young people to be so powerful. At this moment, he regretted it. He wished he could revive the half-immortal that Murong Yu had killed and beat him to death. This bastard, it doesn't matter if he dies, but he provoked such a powerful enemy. The first step immortal was helpless. He had brought the experts of his sect here a long time ago. A first step immortal was a giant in the cultivation world, so he naturally occupied a mountain. Previously, he was unhappy when he saw these young people coming to his mountain as if nothing had happened. He didn't even stop the half-immortal from attacking him. However, he didn't expect this young man to be so terrifying. He actually vomited blood with a single punch. Moreover, other than this inconspicuous black-clothed young man, his friends are also very ferocious. Ah, ah, ah. Screams of agony could be heard. The first step immortal's disciples were killed by the little ape king and the others. With their strength, they couldn't be killed by the little ape king and the others. Chapter 309. All of you must die. Seeing his disciples and grand disciples being slaughtered by the little ape king and the others without any ability to resist, the first step immortal was instantly enraged. With a roar filled with killing intent, he raised his strength to the limit and charged at Murong Yu. Murong Yu smiled disdainfully. He took a step forward and shattered the sky. He appeared in front of the old man and punched him. Although the old man was a first step immortal, there was a huge gap between him and a veteran first step immortal like Sunfoam. He should not have been a first step immortal for long. A first step immortal at this level was the weakest. He was at the bottom of the first step immortals. Murong Yu, on the other hand, was strong enough to kill veteran first step immortals. Moreover, he was much stronger than when he killed Sunfoam. Bang! He punched out, shattering the void and causing the sky to collapse. The power unleashed by the first step immortal was directly smashed apart. At the same time, Murong Yu used the army formula and the dragon elephant prajna technique to attack the old man. The old man was clearly shocked. He forcefully suppressed the surging blood and chi in his body and glared at Murong Yu, who was charging towards him. "You've gone too far," the old man roared. "Gone too far," Murong Yu sneered. His attacks didn't slow down in the slightest. Waves of frightening power burst out continuously, strangling the old man and forcing him to retreat repeatedly. "In my eyes, there is no such thing as going too far," Murong Yu sneered. "So it's Murong Yu. I heard that he killed a few first-step immortals and is now wanted by Yuan Su sect and Tianji sect. He's Murong Yu. His strength is terrifying. This old man is courting death. How dare he provoke Murong Yu? He thinks he's invincible as a first-step immortal. I didn't expect him to be Murong Yu, the devil. This old man is courting death." Hearing Murong Yu's words, the surrounding cultivators burst into laughter. Some people looked at the one-step immortal who was fighting Murong Yu with a mocking expression, while others looked at Murong Yu curiously. There was also a considerable number of people who were looking at Murong Yu eagerly. "Are you Murong Yu?" A bitter smile appeared on the old man's face. He never thought that the person his disciple had casually provoked would be this devil. When the old man heard about Murong Yu, he thought it was an exaggeration. How could a transcending tribulation stage cultivator like Murong Yu kill a first-step immortal? He wouldn't believe it, but now he believed it. When he saw Murong Yu's terrifying power coming at him like a stormy sea, the old man's heart turned even colder. He knew that he would definitely die today. It wasn't just because they provoked Murong Yu and bumped into his spearhead. Murong Yu could use him to establish his prestige. After all, there were still many ignorant cultivators who wanted to provoke Murong Yu. Murong was worried that there was no one to establish his prestige, and this old man came to him. Murong wouldn't let go of this opportunity to establish his prestige. Murong naturally wouldn't let it go. Dragon, elephant, prajna technique, tiger, roar, emperor fist. Murong stepped out step by step, shattering the void. The terrifying power bombarded the old man, causing him to spit out blood and fly backward. With his strength, he was no match for Murong. Seeing Murong send a one-step immortal flying backward with a wave of his hand, the surrounding people looked at Murong in shock. Legends were only legends after all. After seeing Murong use terrifying strength with their own eyes, they were shocked. Some people who were tempted to make a move suppressed the thoughts in their hearts. Dark, godly demon Prajna. Murong bellowed as he swiftly sent out a punch. Suddenly, the two incomparably huge, godly demon shadows appeared in the void above his head. Then, they quickly punched at the old man. A terrifying aura burst out continuously, soaring into the sky and intimidating all the worlds in the heavens. Everyone was shocked when they saw the two towering fiend god phantoms that looked down on the world. When the powerful aura was released, they even had the urge to kneel down and worship it. Bang! After a shocking explosion, the old man took the attack of the godly demon shadows head-on. However, this move was the most powerful move of the dragon-elephant prajna technique. At this time, when Murong used his full strength, it was indomitable and had the power to destroy the heavens and earth. The old man let out a shrill scream and was directly sent flying. The blood he spat out scattered in the void, leaving a trail in the void. The terrifying power was dissipated from his body, shattering the void. Murong coldly snorted and took a step forward. Murong's favorite thing to do was to beat someone while they were down. Thousand Army Elephant Fist. Tiger Roaring Emperor Fist. Fourth move. Roaring Heaven Destruction. Murong roared and used the Dragon Elephant Prajna technique and the fourth move of the Tiger Roaring Emperor Fist, which was also the most powerful move. Bang! Bang! Terrifying power gushed out and directly bombarded the old man's body. Although the old man was a one-step immortal, there was still a gap between his strength and Murong's. Under Murong's lightning-like attacks, he could not fight back at all. In the end, he was punched into a bloody mist by Murong. A one-step immortal was killed. After killing the first-step celestial with a single punch, Murong snatched the old man's storage ring from the air. He stood in the air and coldly swept his gaze over the people around him. Then he stepped into the air and slowly returned to the mountain peak. At this time, under the fierce attacks of the little ape king and the others, the cultivators at the half-immortal realm had been killed. The original mountain peak had been shaved off by the power of their attacks. However, Murong and the others' strength had intimidated the surrounding cultivators. At this time, Murong and the others also understood that on the countless mountains near the Immortal Ascension platform, each force occupied a mountain peak. This was also the reason why Murong was attacked when he appeared on this mountain peak. However, after Murong killed the one-step immortal alone, he should have intimidated some people. After all, to them, one-step immortals were the most powerful beings in the cultivation world. Their strength was far beyond what they could only look up to. Although the grand elders of the Yuan-Su sect and the Tianji sect were tempting, they would lose their lives. So what if they could become a grand elder of a sect in the immortal realm? For a moment, the surrounding cultivators did not dare to get close to Murong's mountain peak. However, there were still people who kept looking at Murong with burning eyes. When will the Immortal Ascension platform open? Murong asked softly as he looked at the awe-inspiring Immortal Ascension platform. Although the Immortal Ascension platform had appeared, it had not yet opened. Otherwise, why would these cultivators be so obedient near the Immortal Ascension platform? Legend has it that the Immortal Ascension platform opens for a certain period of time, and this period is not long. Once the Immortal Ascension platform opens, there will definitely be a huge battle here, Hu Tong said with a slight frown. Murong looked around. There are countless mountains and countless cultivators. Just the number of first-step immortals was unknown. There were even the legendary half-step immortals. Almost all the experts in the cultivation world had flocked here. There were countless people. How many people can ascend from the Immortal Ascension platform? Morong Yu asked with a frown. I don't know. The Immortal Ascension platform has not appeared in the cultivation world for too long. However, once the Immortal Ascension platform opens, there will definitely be a huge battle here. Rivers of blood will definitely flow. When that time comes, even we will not be able to avoid it. Morong Yu and the others nodded. Although they could kill first-step immortals, their strength was already at the peak of the cultivation world. However, once the Immortal Ascension platform opened, the first-step immortals and half-step immortals would fight for a spot. How many first-step immortals were there? How many half-step immortals were there? Almost all the first-step immortals in the cultivation world had rushed here. Morong Yu only took a glance and vaguely felt that there were at least tens of thousands of them. When tens of thousands of first-step immortals fought, even the entire Lianluo mountain range would be destroyed. Perhaps even the sky would be trampled down. At the thought of so many experts fighting, Morong Yu could not help but shudder. With his strength, he was like a drop of water in the ocean. If he was thrown in, he would not even cause a ripple. If these people fight, we will retreat immediately, Morong Yu said in a low voice. Little Ape King and the others hurriedly nodded. Although they were conceited, they were not arrogant. Boom! At that moment, an extremely terrifying aura erupted from the sky, like a stormy sea. It enveloped Morong Yu and the others and directly suppressed them. Bang! 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 Caught off guard, Morong Yu and the others were sent flying by this extremely terrifying aura. This was especially true for Little Ape King, the fire-eyed golden ape, and the others. They were sent flying like broken rags as they spat out blood. Among the 5 of them, Morong Yu was the strongest. However, he was also sent flying. Although he did not spit out blood, it was extremely difficult for him to resist. Swoosh! An indifferent old man appeared in the void above the mountain peak where Morong Yu and the others were. He revealed a faint murderous intent as he looked at Morong Yu. Half-step immortal. Morong Yu was shocked. The tree of life in his dantian began to tremble violently as it frantically absorbed the chaotic energy to replenish Morong Yu's strength. Morong Yu, on the other hand, increased his strength to the limit to resist the pressure of the half-step immortal. Although Morong Yu was sent flying, he did not spit out blood like the others. On the contrary, he was able to faintly resist his aura. A look of surprise appeared in the half-step immortal's eyes. However, it was soon filled with murderous intent. A cultivator in the crossing calamity stage was actually able to resist his aura. If he was allowed to grow, who in the cultivation world would be his match? This was especially true for his sect. Moreover, the Immortal Ascension platform had appeared. Once all of them ascended, no one in the cultivation world would be a match for Morong Yu. This person must die. The half-step immortal was filled with murderous intent as he looked at Morong Yu. He took a step forward and released an even more violent aura. He wanted to kill Morong Yu. Chapter 3:10. Puff. Faced with the terrifying aura of the half-step immortal, Morong Yu could not withstand it even though he was as strong as a first-step immortal. He spat out a mouthful of blood. If his physical body had not reached the level of an immortal artifact, his entire body would have been smashed to pieces by this terrifying aura. The strength of an half-step immortal was so terrifying. He had actually forced Morong Yu to spit out blood with just his aura. Morong Yu, the Little Ape King, and the others were all sent flying by this terrifying aura. They all looked at Morong Yu with pale faces as they coughed out blood. At this moment, they finally realized the gap between them and Morong Yu. They also realized how much stronger Morong Yu was than them. Most of the aura of the half-step immortal had suppressed Morong Yu. The aura that had sent them flying and made them spit out blood was only the aftermath of the half-step immortal's attack. However, even so, they were still injured. However, Morong Yu, who had endured most of the half-step immortal's aura, only spat out a mouthful of blood. They saw how powerful Murong Yu was, but they were even more shocked by the strength of an half-step immortal. As the descendants of the Demon Mountain's Demon King, they naturally knew how powerful an half-step immortal was. Although there was only a one-word difference between a half-step immortal and a first-step immortal, there was a huge gap between their strength. Murong Yu's strength could kill a first-step immortal, but he could not withstand a single blow from a half-step immortal. The half-step immortal was shocked when he saw Murong Yu spit out a mouthful of blood, but still managed to withstand his aura. However, the stronger Murong Yu was, the more intense the killing intent in the half-step immortal's heart became. The stronger Murong Yu was, the more the half-step immortal wanted to kill him. Under the aura of an half-step immortal, an ordinary first-step immortal would not even have the strength to fight back and would be severely injured or even killed. However, Murong Yu actually managed to withstand his aura. Upon seeing this, not only were the eminent celestials shocked, but the cultivators in the vicinity were also shocked. How could a tribulation passing stage cultivator block the aura of an immortal? It was absolutely shocking. However, what they did not know was that Murong Yu was least afraid of pressure. After all, he often faced the pressure of the heavenly tribulation and was already used to it. However, the pressure from the eminent celestial still contained the power of an eminent celestial. When it landed on Murong Yu could not resist at all. Although he managed to block the pressure of the eminent celestial, he knew his own difficulties. A cold, killing intent flashed in the half-step celestial's eyes as he took a step forward. Suddenly, an even more terrifying aura surged towards Murong Yu like a vast ocean. Wherever the aura passed, the void would constantly shatter. Murong Yu's expression turned solemn as he looked at the pressure that was rapidly approaching him. However, his heart was burning with rage. Half-step immortals were definitely the strongest experts in the cultivation world, but they still attacked him. "Old fart, you want to kill me? You're not qualified." Murong Yu gritted his teeth as he spat out those words. At this moment, he had already circulated his power to the limit. His body erupted with terrifying fluctuations to resist the pressure of the eminent celestial. "You're overestimating yourself." The eminent celestial snorted coldly as an even more terrifying aura surged towards Murong Yu, intending to kill him. Murong Yu's eyes shone brightly as his killing intent soared to the sky. In the end, Murong Yu couldn't withstand the unceasing waves of aura and spat out another mouthful of blood. At the same time, he was sent flying again. Crack! The crisp sound of bones breaking could be heard from Murong Yu's body. Apparently, his bones had begun to break under the terrifying pressure of the eminent celestial. Purple ribbon, celestial robe. Murong Yu was a little frightened. Under the pressure of an eminent celestial, even if his body had reached the level of a celestial artifact, it would be difficult for him to resist. Strength. In the end, he was still not strong enough. Even if his body had reached the level of a celestial artifact, he was still not a match for an eminent celestial. Of course, if Murong Yu's body had not reached the level of a celestial artifact, he would have already been killed. After all, his strength was only at the first-step celestial stage, but his cultivation level was at the crossing tribulation stage. The difference between the crossing tribulation stage and the eminent celestial was several stages. Just the pressure of the stage alone made it difficult for Murong Yu to unleash his full strength. Murong Yu had no choice but to take out the purple ribbon celestial robe. An eminent celestial robe. With Murong Yu's strength, he could unleash more power from the purple ribbon celestial robe. As soon as the purple ribbon celestial robe was taken out, Murong Yu's body was enveloped by a layer of purple halo. Murong Yu, who was inside the halo, immediately relaxed. Eminent celestial artifact. The eminent celestial was pleasantly surprised when he saw the purple ribbon celestial robe emitting a purple halo. When it came to immortal artifacts, no one had a better understanding of them than him. Eminent celestial artifacts could not unleash the full power of eminent celestial artifacts in the hands of ordinary people. If one wanted to control and unleash more power from the eminent celestial artifact, the wielder of the eminent celestial artifact had to be extremely powerful. For example, the purple ribbon celestial robe's power in Murong Yu's hands was on a completely different level than in the hands of an eminent celestial. At the very least, an eminent celestial could unleash the full power of the purple ribbon celestial robe by dozens or even hundreds of times. When the Immortal Ascension platform opens, there will definitely be a huge battle royale. If I have a defensive eminent celestial robe, it will definitely make me stronger. The eminent celestial's eyes lit up as he thought to himself. At the same time, he reached out his hand and grabbed Murong Yu. He wanted to take the purple ribbon celestial robe from Murong Yu's body. At the same time, the other experts who had noticed Murong Yu's eminent celestial robe also looked over, eager to make a move. When Murong Yu saw how shameless these people were, he became even more furious. At the same time, he knew how important these treasures were to these experts. "Get lost!" Murong Yu furiously roared. He raised his strength to the limit and fiercely slammed it against the half-step immortal's hand. At this moment, he did not dare to reveal the treasures in his possession. Otherwise, if he provoked more eminent celestials to attack him, he would really die today. "You overestimate yourself." The eminent celestial smiled disdainfully when he saw that Murong Yu still dared to resist. In the eyes of experts at their level, those below the eminent celestial realm were ants. Boom! Murong Yu's attack, which contained 100% of his strength, collided with the eminent celestial's hand. However, to Murong Yu's horror, even with his full strength, he was only able to stop the eminent immortal's hand for a few breaths of time. The eminent celestial's hand did not even suffer any damage as it continued to grab Murong Yu. On the other hand, Murong Yu's attack was directly shattered. Damn it! Murong Yu was also shocked by the strength of the eminent celestial. With a thought, Murong Yu's body swayed, and he retreated rapidly. "Let's see where you're going." The disdain on the eminent celestial's face deepened when he saw that Murong Yu was actually trying to escape in front of him. He did not seem to have done anything, but his hand reached out and grabbed Murong Yu. With a swoosh, Murong Yu appeared hundreds of thousands of miles away. He had just heaved a sigh of relief when he looked back. Then, his expression changed drastically. With a step, Murong Yu appeared hundreds of thousands of miles away again. However, the half-step celestial's huge hand still reached out quickly. It was like a shadow attached to the body, like a gangrene attached to the bone. Murong Yu was completely shocked. Even with his speed, he still could not escape the pursuit of an eminent celestial. The gap between an eminent celestial and a first-step celestial was actually so big. Murong Yu was shocked, but the first-step celestial was dozens of times more shocked than Murong Yu. Those who had not reached the eminent celestial realm would not understand what it meant. They were the supreme beings of the cultivation world. Apart from cultivators of the same realm, no one was a match for them. However, Murong Yu's speed was not even comparable to that of an eminent celestial. Although the eminent celestial looked calm, in fact, he had already used 70% of his strength to grab Murong Yu. If they fought head-on, even if Murong Yu's body had reached the level of a celestial artifact, he would not be a match for 70% of the eminent celestial's strength. However, in terms of speed, even the eminent celestial could not catch up to Murong Yu. One could imagine how terrifying Murong Yu's speed was. However, the stronger Murong Yu was, the more the eminent celestial wanted to kill him. "Let's see where you can run to." The eminent celestial was furious. He took a step forward and was about to chase after him. Whether it was because of Murong Yu's speed or because of his speed, the eminent celestial could not let him continue to exist. He had to kill him. Moreover, he knew Murong Yu's character. Today, he had attacked Murong Yu. In the future, Murong Yu would definitely take revenge on him and his sect. No matter what, he had to kill Murong Yu. Ha! You old farts are really shameless. You actually have the nerve to attack these juniors? At this moment, a hearty laughter that was like a thunderclap was heard. At the same time, a huge golden hand reached down from the sky and grabbed the eminent celestial's hand that was about to grab Murong Yu. Rumble. The two huge hands collided in the void. Then, both of them exploded and disappeared at the same time. However, there was no terrifying impact. It merely shattered the void created by the exchange of blows. Giant Ape King, you want to interfere in this matter? The eminent celestial frowned as he looked at the giant Ape King who had appeared out of thin air. I can't stand your shamelessness. Moreover, what do you have to say about injuring my people? The giant Ape King's face darkened as he looked at the eminent celestial with killing intent. The eminent celestial's face darkened as he looked at the giant Ape King with fear in his heart. The giant Ape King sneered disdainfully when he saw the eminent celestial's expression. Then he said loudly, "Moron boy, come back. Let's see if that old bastard dares to attack you today." Chapter 3:11. There were strong and weak half-step celestials as well. The giant Ape King was one of the top 10 demon kings of the Demon Mountain. He was obviously one of the strongest half-step celestials. Therefore, after seeing the giant Ape King, the half-step celestials who attacked Murong Yu didn't dare to attack him. They were clearly afraid of the giant Ape King. Although the half-step celestial who attacked him was powerful and was known as one of the top existences in the cultivation world, he was still a half-step celestial. However, he knew that if the giant Ape King wanted to kill him, he wouldn't be a match for him. Killing Murong Yu was important, but his life was more important. The little Ape King and the others were overjoyed when they saw the giant Ape King. Then, the little Ape King said loudly, "Murong, no one dares to touch you now. You should come back." When Murong Yu heard the conversation between the giant Ape King and the little Ape King, he pondered for a moment before teleporting over. Although it was a little embarrassing to be protected like this, he was still a junior. Although he was strong, his cultivation level wasn't high. Although he was protected, he believed that no one would say anything. After taking a step forward, Murong Yu returned to the mountain where he was originally at. After glancing at the half-step celestial who attacked him, Murong Yu looked at the giant Ape King. The giant Ape King was a middle-aged man. He was extremely tall, about 3 to 4 meters tall. The aura he emitted was extremely terrifying and shocking. However, Murong Yu could faintly see a trace of faint gray energy on his body. Death energy. Murong Yu was stunned. He had heard that the giant Ape King was approaching the end of his life and was in secluded cultivation. Now it seemed like it was true. Death energy wasn't some kind of energy. It would only appear on a person who was about to die. For example, a cultivator who was nearing the end of his life, or a mortal who was nearing the end of his life. Of course, in a mortal world, they couldn't see death energy. This was because the death energy of mortals was very weak and almost invisible. As one's strength increased, the death energy would become denser. The giant Ape King was extremely strong and could usually suppress death energy. However, there was still death energy lingering on his body. Clearly, he was nearing the end of his life. "Greetings, Giant Ape King." Murong Yu bowed to the Giant Ape King. Regardless of whether it was his identity as a demon king or because of the little Ape King, he had to do this to show respect. Moreover, the other party had just saved him. "Ah, I heard you killed a few first-step immortals." It was not bad to be able to kill a first-step immortal at the tribulation passing stage. "And I heard that you've only been cultivating for about 20 years. With such a fast rate of growth, it's no wonder some shameless old farts decided to attack you." The giant Ape King laughed loudly, completely ignoring the ashen-faced half-step immortal. Murong Yu smiled faintly. "Thank you for your help, senior. Otherwise, I really wouldn't have been able to do anything to these shameless old men. Bah, these old farts are especially thick-skinned. They've lived longer than several hundred generations of my ancestors combined. They actually dared to attack me. How shameless." The half-step immortal's face turned pale as he looked at Murong Yu with killing intent. However, Murong Yu was right. An old fart like him, who had lived for hundreds of thousands of years, actually dared to attack Murong Yu, who had lived for less than 50 years. How shameless. "Huh, with me here, let's see who dares to attack you." The giant ape king laughed loudly and said domineeringly, "With the giant ape king's strength, if he wanted to protect someone here, no one would dare to attack Moronyu. Even the powerhouses of the 10 great sects wouldn't dare to do so." Moronyu smiled faintly. "Thank you, senior. However, I'm not a person who meekly accepts adversity. I'm someone who will take revenge. This time, after the Immortal Ascension stage, I'll pay a visit to all the people who tried to kill me." Murongyu's cold voice resounded throughout the area, causing many people to frown. At the same time, they felt a chill in their hearts, but at the same time, an intense killing intent erupted. With Murongyu's strength, given enough time to grow, even the 10 great sects wouldn't be a match for him. Especially after the Immortal Ascension stage, when the powerhouses of the various great sects ascended, their sects would be even less of a match for Murongyu. "This brat must die." Countless gloomy gazes swept over, filled with intense killing intent. Murongyu was an existence that could threaten their sect, so they had already developed an intense desire to kill him. Hearing this, the giant ape king looked at Murongyu helplessly. Murongyu's words had already incited the killing intent of countless people. Perhaps before the Immortal Ascension stage opened, with the giant ape king's protection, they wouldn't dare to attack Murongyu. However, once the Immortal Ascension stage opened, chaos would ensue. At that time, the giant ape king wouldn't have the time to take care of Murongyu. In the chaos, many powerhouses would definitely attack Murongyu. With Murongyu's strength, it would be difficult for him to resist. Naturally, Murongyu could feel numerous gazes filled with killing intent landing on him. However, he didn't care. When the time came, all these powerhouses would be fighting to enter the Immortal Ascension stage. Who would pay attention to him? At most, they would find the time to give him a slap. However, how could Murongyu be afraid of these people? With his speed, it would be difficult for these people to kill him. After the Immortal Ascension stage, I must undergo the 49 heavenly tribulations as soon as possible. Once I reach the transformation stage, my strength should be comparable to that of an half-step immortal. When the time comes, I will destroy all these sections. Murongyu's killing intent surged. As long as he was strong enough to kill an half-step immortal, no one in the cultivation world would be a match for him. When he thought of this, Murongyu couldn't help but laugh coldly. He looked at the half-step immortal who had attacked him and asked the giant ape king, "Giant ape king, which sect does this shameless old turtle belong to?" "Zushinzong." "So it's that old turtle bastard from Zushinzong. I'm not surprised that he's so shameless." Murongyu gritted his teeth and looked at the half-step immortal. "After the Immortal Ascension stage, I will definitely pay a visit to Zushinzong. I want to see how your shameless Zushinzong will stop me." The half-step immortal looked at Murongyu with murderous intent. He wanted nothing more than to slap him to death. The half-step immortal wanted to kill Murongyu, but at this moment, he wanted to kill Zushinzong's sect leader, Zhuang Ningguang. This young man was originally Zushinzong's disciple. However, that little bastard actually expelled him from the sect because of something that didn't happen. The genius that originally belonged to Zushinzong had now become Zushinzong's enemy. With his speed of growth and strength, he was now a threat to Zushinzong. If Murongyu was allowed to continue growing, perhaps Zushinzong would really be destroyed by him. If you were not Zushinzong's disciple, no matter how heaven-defying your talent was, you would still have to die. The half-step immortal's heart was filled with murderous intent. If it wasn't for his relationship with the giant ape king, he would have already attacked. Sensing the intense, murderous intent from the half-step immortal, the giant ape king frowned slightly. His expression turned cold as he said in a deep voice, "Could it be that you want to attack?" The half-step immortal was shocked. He then smiled embarrassedly and said, "He's just a junior. He's not worthy of my attack." Shameless. Originally, he had already attacked Murongyu. However, because of the giant ape king, he didn't dare to continue. However, at this moment, he said that Murongyu was not worthy of his attack. He had seen shameless people before, but he had never seen such a shameless person. The surrounding cultivators' faces turned red. They felt embarrassed for this shameless old bastard. That better be the case. Otherwise, I don't mind starting a massacre before I ascend." The giant ape king's voice echoed throughout the Lianluo mountain range. Many people's expressions changed. Obviously, the giant ape king was warning those who wanted to attack. This also made some people who wanted to attack give up. However, their desire to kill Murong Yu became even stronger. "Let's go." The giant ape king snorted coldly. Then he soared into the sky and flew to the side. "It's so nice to have a backer." Murong Yu and the little ape king soared into the sky and said with a smile. Just now, he had used the giant ape king to intimidate Murong Yu. This was the first time he felt that he had a backer. Even if the sky fell, he had a backer. "Haha, then you'll join our demon mountain," the little lion king said with a smile. Murong Yu shook his head. With his current cultivation speed, it wouldn't be long before he could ascend. With his strength, there weren't many people in the cultivation world who could do anything to him. There was no need for him to rely on any power. However, this made Murong Yu ponder. After he ascended to the immortal world, should he find a sect to join? A big tree is good for shade. With the giant ape king's strength and status, the mountain he was at was extremely far away from the immortal ascension stage. Apart from that, the demon mountain's 10 great demon kings and the cultivation world's 10 great sects were all the same. Looking at the huge, majestic immortal ascension stage in front of him, Murong Yu couldn't help but feel shocked. Senior giant ape king, can the immortal ascension stage really allow one to ascend to the immortal world? Murong Yu asked. Legend has it that it can. However, there is a quota for it. The giant ape king said with a gloomy expression. It was inevitable that cultivators could use the immortal ascension stage to ascend to the immortal world. However, no one knew how many quotas there were. In the cultivation world, it had been countless years since anyone had ascended to the immortal world. One could only imagine how many powerful cultivators were hidden in the cultivation world. If there were many quotas for the immortal ascension stage, the competition wouldn't be so fierce. However, if there weren't many quotas, then they would kill each other to obtain a quota. Even the giant ape king didn't have much confidence that he could obtain a quota. After all, although he was strong, there were many other cultivators in the cultivation world who were as strong as him. Murong Yu and the others were silent. This was especially true for the little ape king. He knew the giant ape king's situation better than anyone else. If the giant ape king couldn't ascend, then he could only die. After all, he was nearing the end of his lifespan. The immortal ascension stage was his only chance. As long as he could enter the immortal world and use the rich immortal spiritual energy there, the giant ape king would be able to break through. For a moment, no one spoke. As time passed, the atmosphere around the immortal ascension stage became more and more oppressive. Once the immortal ascension stage opened, then the slaughter would begin. Chapter 312. Murong Yu, Little Ape King, and the others stood on a mountain peak near the immortal ascension stage. As the days passed, more and more experts appeared near the immortal ascension stage. Other than the old monsters from the top 10 sects, the 10 demon kings of the demon mountain also appeared. However, Murong Yu did not see the demon mountain master. However, it made sense. With the demon mountain master's ability, he had broken open an immortal door with one punch during the 49 heavenly tribulations. It was only a matter of time before he ascended. There was no need for him to go through the immortal ascension stage. However, Murong Yu did not believe that the Demon Mountain Master was not interested in coming here. After all, the reappearance of the immortal ascension stage was a huge event that shook the entire cultivation world. The Demon Mountain Master must have been here a long time ago. He was just hiding somewhere, and no one could find him. There were more and more experts. There were many first-step immortals and even half-step immortals. Murong Yu saw no less than 10,000 half-step immortals. This was the true strength of the cultivation world. Seeing these people, Murong Yu was completely shocked. There were no less than 10,000 half-step immortals. The number of first-step immortals was several times more than that. Other than these people, there must be half-step immortals and first-step immortals guarding the various sections. After all, no one wanted their sects to be destroyed by other sects immediately after they ascended. They had to be prepared to leave enough experts to protect their sections. After seeing these experts, Murong finally realized that he'd been underestimating the experts of the cultivation world all this time. With my current strength, it will be difficult for me to dominate the cultivation world, Murong thought to himself. The more experts there were, the more stifling the atmosphere became. In fact, the air was filled with murderous intent. This was especially so for Murong. Almost every moment, the divine consciousness of experts swept over. They did not hide their murderous intent at all. These were cultivators from various sects who had a grudge against Murong. What made Murong depressed was that the weakest of these murderous intents were from first-step immortals. Most of them were from half-step immortals. Obviously, these half-step immortals felt threatened by Murong's rapid growth. They wanted to kill Murong while he was still in the cradle. Murong stood on the mountain peak fearlessly in the face of the naked and undisguised killing intent. He didn't even bat an eye at it. This was because he had the little ape king. With such a powerful backer by his side, Murong felt incomparably at ease. However, the little ape king and the others weren't as relaxed as Murong in the face of the powerful divine senses that constantly swept over them. After all, they're the younger generation immortals, and the immortals and immortals were. Suddenly, ripples appeared in the void. In the next moment, an old man appeared on the mountain peak where Murong was. As soon as the old man appeared, he looked at Murong with his turbid eyes. At this moment, Murong felt goosebumps all over his body. He felt a sense of danger. He's definitely one of the strongest half-step immortals. Murong's expression turned solemn as he stared at the old man without blinking. Secretly, he had already raised his strength to the limit. At the same time, the little ape king and the others felt a prickling sensation on their skin. In front of the old man, they felt as though everything about them had been seen through. They felt very uncomfortable. You're Murong? The young man who can kill a first-step immortal when he's in the tribulation passing stage? I heard that you killed Zushenzong's eldest disciple and his protector? You're young and promising. The old man's voice was calm. Those who didn't know him might think that the old man admired Murong very much. However, Murong could sense the strong, killing intent in the old man's voice. He felt that if it was possible, the old man would definitely kill Murong with a slap. The giant ape king's face instantly darkened. He snorted coldly. Suddenly, the strong sense of danger from Murong disappeared. Wang, you people from Zushenzong are really shameless to the extreme. Could it be that you want to attack these juniors? The giant ape king looked at Wang, the half-step immortal of Zushenzong, with a gloomy face and murderous intent. At this moment, he was very angry in his heart. Like him, Wang was one of the strongest half-step immortals. Moreover, his seniority was even higher than the giant ape king. With the relationship between Murong and Zushenzong, Wang's appearance here definitely meant that he didn't have good intentions towards Murong. Wang glanced at the giant ape king indifferently. I just heard that this young man is very strong and can suppress many cultivators of the older generation. I was just a little curious. A little curious? Now that you've seen it, please go back. You're not welcome here. The giant ape king didn't have a good attitude towards this shameless old man. When he was young, he was also hunted by this old man. The giant ape king had always been brooding about it. If this old man didn't hide in Zushenzong and didn't come out, the giant ape king would have already killed him. A cold light flashed in Wang's eyes, and he snorted inaudibly. He looked at Murong and said indifferently, "Young man, the tallest tree in the forest will be destroyed by the wind. Young people should keep a low profile and bide their time." Murong sneered. "Senior, you're half lying in the coffin. You shouldn't meddle in the affairs of us juniors. Otherwise, I don't mind helping you close the coffin." Wang's eyes glowed with killing intent as he looked at Murong. An ominous glint flickered in his eyes, as if he was about to attack. The ape king, who had been watching him, snorted coldly. Although I'm about to die, who knows, young man? You might die before I do. Senior, you don't have to worry about that. Everyone in Zushinzong has died, but I won't die. If you don't die in this immortal ascension stage incident, you'll see it very soon. However, I believe that this time, you will die without a doubt. Murong-Yu looked at Wang, and with a smile. Wang and's killing intent sword. His originally calm face darkened. Everyone knew that Wang and was nearing the end of his lifespan. This kind of person didn't want to die, and he hated it when others said that he was going to die. In the void, none of his juniors dared to say these words in front of him. This was because these words were taboo to Wang. Now, Murong-Yu was saying that he was going to die. How could he not be furious? Senior, you should hurry back. It's a pity that I didn't know that I would meet you here. Otherwise, I would have prepared a good coffin for you. Of course, if I can find your corpse, I'll definitely buy a good coffin for you, Murong-Yu said with a smile. Good, very good. You'd better not leave the giant ape king's side. Wang and's killing intent sword. He almost couldn't help but attack. If it weren't for the giant ape king, he would have killed Murong-Yu with one slap. Haha, although you tried to kill me in the past, I will send you a wreath after you die. The giant ape king laughed loudly. Although he was nearing the end of his lifespan, he was much more open-minded than Wang, and Wang and's face darkened as he looked at Murong-Yu. He snorted coldly and disappeared in a flash. The giant ape king's face was full of disdain. If the immortal ascension stage appears, I will definitely kill him. It seemed that the giant ape king was still full of resentment after being hunted down by Wang and in the past. Seeing that even an ancestor like Wang and couldn't win over him, the spiritual wills that were constantly sweeping over him finally disappeared. However, the atmosphere became even more tense and oppressive. Murong-Yu, that old man wants to kill you. After this, Zushinzon's people will probably make a move on you. The little ape king said in a low voice. If there is no place for you in the cultivation world, the Demon Mountain will welcome you. Hu Tong smiled. Murong-Yu shook his head and smiled. A mere Zushinzong is nothing to me. After the immortal ascension stage, who knows who will make a move on who? Murong-Yu had already decided that after the immortal ascension stage incident, he would immediately undergo the 49 heavenly tribulations. Boom! A month later, a blinding golden light suddenly exploded from the immortal ascension stage. At the same time, there was an earth-shattering explosion. An aura as vast as the ocean surged out from the immortal ascension stage. It was powerful and vast, but didn't seem to be oppressive. With the immortal ascension stage as the center, the blinding golden light exploded in all directions. At this moment, the entire cultivation world shook. Almost everyone saw the golden light shoot up into the sky from the extreme north of the cultivation world. The blinding golden light was extremely dazzling. Even half-step immortals were blinded by it. Murong-Yu was the same. After a few breaths, when the golden light softened, Murong-Yu looked at the vast and majestic immortal ascension stage. A golden light shot out from the 9 heavens and enveloped the entire immortal ascension stage. Looking along the golden light, there seemed to be a huge world that was countless times larger than the cultivation world above the endless 9 heavens. Vaguely, there were many towering buildings, endless mountain ranges, and extremely powerful cultivators. They were immortals. The immortal ascension stage has opened. At this moment, everyone was shocked. But soon, someone reacted to the situation. Be careful. You'd better leave this place immediately. The giant ape king's voice rang in the ears of Murong-Yu and the others. At the same time, he took a step forward and disappeared on the spot. He was already rushing towards the immortal ascension stage. Before he left, the giant ape king waved his hand. Instantly, a gentle force enveloped Murong-Yu and the others. Then, Murong-Yu felt the scenery in front of him change, and he appeared on the other side. The instant Murong-Yu and the others disappeared, the space on the mountain peak they were on shattered. Large hands appeared out of thin air, carrying with them a frightening aura that could destroy the world as they pressed down on the mountain peak. Bang! After an earth-shattering explosion, the mountain Murong-Yu was on, along with the space around it, shattered into pieces. Chapter 3:13. The expressions of Murong-Yu and the others instantly changed when they saw the destroyed void. At that moment, at least a few dozen half-step immortals had sent a palm strike toward them. Dozens of half-step immortals had attacked at the same time. One could imagine how much they hated Murong-Yu. However, these people were truly vicious. Apart from Murong-Yu, there were also the Little Ape King, the Little Lion King, and Hutong. These three were different from Murong-Yu. They were the successors of the Demon Mountain's 10 Demon Kings. It was obvious that these people wanted to kill them all. Otherwise, even if the giant Ape King had not left, he would not have been able to withstand the attacks of dozens of half-step immortals. If the giant Ape King had not teleported Murong-Yu and the others away before leaving, Murong-Yu and the others would have been smashed into pieces. These old bastards are truly vicious. The Little Ape King was furious. The Little Lion King and Hutong were also furious. Woof! These shameless old bastards. Let's go and eat all their disciples. The large black dog's eyes flashed fiercely. He was clearly furious. Murong-Yu's killing intent also surged. Let's leave this place first. Although Murong-Yu was furious, he did not lose his mind. Although they had been teleported here by the giant Ape King, since those half-step immortals had already attacked, it would not be so simple. Let's split up, Murong-Yu said in a deep voice. Then he grabbed the fiery-eyed golden ape and the large black dog with each hand and rushed out with a single step. The Little Ape King and the others had no choice but to teleport away. The reason they split up was because Murong-Yu knew that those people only wanted to kill him. If the Little Ape King and the others followed him, they would most likely be implicated. If any of them were to suffer any injuries, Murong-Yu would feel guilty about it. Boom! After a shocking explosion, the void above Murong-Yu's head suddenly shattered. Following that, a large green hand covered the entire area. It locked onto Murong-Yu and slammed down viciously. You two return to Hichu Luoshu first, Murong-Yu shouted in a low voice, and sent the fire-eyed golden ape and the large black dog back to the Hichu Luoshu world. He used the troop formula to increase his speed to the limit and flew into the distance. Murong-Yu did not want to fight with an eminent celestial. The main reason was that there were too many people here who wanted to kill him. Once he was entangled by someone, he would definitely die. Greenback King, you old bastard, you dare to attack a junior? You make me feel ashamed to be associated with you. A faint voice of a girl was transmitted over. Then a large white hand traversed through the void and slapped over from afar, blocking the large green hand. Nine-tailed King, you're courting death. The Greenback King was furious. He clashed with the Nine-tailed King's palm, and both of them exploded. However, when the Greenback King wanted to continue attacking Murong-Yu, he discovered that Murong-Yu had already disappeared. At the same time, a skinny old man appeared in the void. His expression was unfriendly as he released a powerful divine sense to scan the surroundings. A bell-like laughter rang out. Not far away from the Greenback King, a mature beauty appeared in the void. She was one of the 10 demon kings of the Demon Mountain, the Nine-tailed King. Hutong was beside the Nine-tailed King. Greenback King, you're too useless. You only know how to bully the weak. At this moment, a middle-aged man appeared in the void and looked at the Greenback King with disdain. The Little Ape King and the Little Lion King stood beside the middle-aged man. Obviously, this middle-aged man was one of the 10 demon kings of the Demon Mountain, the Golden Lion King. Greenback King, I heard that he only crippled a strand of your divine sense. Why do you hold a grudge against him? The Golden Lion King looked at the Greenback King with disdain and sneered. Among the 10 demon kings of the Demon Mountain, the Greenback King was selfish and vicious. He did not get along with the other demon kings. The Giant Ape King and the others especially disliked him. Therefore, when the Little Lion King and the others found them, they immediately attacked. Blocking the Greenback King and preventing him from attacking Murong-Yu was one of the reasons. The main reason they attacked was to stop the Greenback King. Blocking the Greenback King's attack was something they were most willing to do. Boom! Just as the Greenback King was enraged, a loud explosion came from the Immortal Ascension stage. At this moment, countless cultivators were fighting over the spots to enter the Immortal Ascension stage. Tens of thousands of half-step immortals and at least 100,000 half-step immortals charged towards the Immortal Ascension stage the moment it opened. However, the spots for the Immortal Ascension stage were limited. It was impossible for hundreds of thousands of cultivators to enter the Immortal Ascension stage and ascend to the Immortal Realm. Therefore, when they saw people charging towards the Immortal Ascension stage, they began to unleash their power to kill those who were charging toward the Immortal Ascension stage first. Hundreds of thousands of first-step immortals, half-step immortals, transformation stage, tribulation stage, and body integration stage cultivators. There were at least a few million cultivators near the Immortal Ascension stage. Only a small portion of these people were here to watch the show like Muronyu. Most of them wanted to ascend to the Immortal Realm through the Immortal Ascension stage. After all, these people's talents were limited and it was impossible for them to ascend. If they wanted to ascend, they could only do so through the Immortal Ascension stage. In an instant, millions of cultivators attacked at the same time. The terrifying power shattered the void. Bang, bang, bang. In just a blink of an eye, countless cultivators were bombarded by the terrifying energy. Even half-step celestials could not react in time before they were blasted into a cloud of blood mist and exploded into pieces. The combined power of millions of cultivators was extremely terrifying. In the void hundreds of thousands of miles away from the Immortal Ascension stage, Muronyu stood in the void and looked at the cultivators who were being blasted into pieces. He could not help but be shocked. Millions of cultivators attacked at the same time. They were all powerful cultivators of the cultivation world. It was more terrifying than a battle in the mortal world. One by one, powerful experts who stood at the peak of the cultivation world fell under the bombardment of these terrifying forces. Countless amounts of power poured down around the Immortal Ascension stage. The void around the Immortal Ascension stage had become a vacuum. It was filled with violent power. Even half-step immortals did not dare to step into it. However, even though the void was constantly being destroyed, it had no effect on the Immortal Ascension stage. You could even see the Immortal Ascension stage emitting a layer of invisible energy, isolating the outside world from the outside world. Even the combined power of millions of cultivators could not reach the Immortal Ascension stage, let alone kill it. Seeing that the Immortal Ascension stage was sealed by the terrifying power, the cultivators, especially those who were nearing the end of their lifespans, felt a headache coming on. Even the giant Ape King and the others did not dare to enter the Immortal Ascension stage. Once they entered, they would be killed instantly. However, although the Immortal Ascension stage was open, no one knew how long it would last. If it was too short, they would not be able to break through the seal and enter the Immortal Ascension stage. Wouldn't that be a waste of time? The Immortal Ascension stage was right in front of them, but it was still so far away. These people were anxious. Kill all these bastards. One of the half-step immortals roared as he unleashed a powerful technique at the crowd. Boom! After a loud explosion, thousands of cultivators were blasted into smithereens. Seeing the half-step immortal attack, the other cultivators' eyes lit up. If they wanted to enter the Immortal Ascension stage, they had to break through the seal. The easiest way to do that was to kill all these people. Boom! 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 Terrifying auras erupted from the crowd as the half-step immortals unleashed their most powerful attacks, killing the surrounding cultivators. After the half-step immortal attacked, the cultivators near the Immortal Ascension stage began to die in large numbers. Perhaps the half-step immortals did not dare to get close to them, but once they spread out, they would be slaughtered by the half-step immortals. In just a few breaths of time after the eminent celestials attacked, more than 100,000 cultivators were killed. After the half-step immortals attacked, the other cultivators reacted and began to kill the cultivators around them. They knew that if they wanted to obtain a spot to enter the Immortal Ascension stage, they had to kill all these people. If they could kill everyone present, then no one would be able to compete with them for the Immortal Ascension stage. Murong Yu, who was watching from afar, shook his head at the sight of the fallen cultivators. After this chaotic battle, even if some people succeeded in ascending, the strength of the cultivation world would drop by a level. After all, most of the people here were elites of the cultivation world. Like Murong Yu, many people who had come to watch the show had already run away. Some people who had their eyes on the Immortal Ascension stage had also run away. They were waiting to reap the benefits. The chaotic battle between millions of cultivators was extremely terrifying. In a short time, the entire Lianhua mountain range, except for the peak where the Immortal Ascension stage was located, had been razed to the ground. As for the original several million cultivators, their numbers had been reduced by 50%. Of course, those who had died were the weaker cultivators. However, even though half of the cultivators had died, the battle did not stop. On the contrary, it became even more intense. Whoosh! A cultivator killed one of his enemies and teleported toward the Immortal Ascension stage. Bang! However, before he could even get close to the Immortal Ascension stage, he was blasted out of the void and turned into a cloud of blood mist. During the chaotic battle, countless cultivators tried to take advantage of the chaos to reach the Immortal Ascension stage, but they were all killed. Whenever they saw someone rushing toward the Immortal Ascension stage, the cultivators who were fighting nearby would give up on their opponents and attack the cultivator who was rushing toward the Immortal Ascension stage. Because of this, no one could get close to the Immortal Ascension stage. The more this was the case, the more intense the battle became. They all knew that if they did not kill all these people, no one would be able to reach the Immortal Ascension stage. Chapter 314. After half a day of fighting, 99% of the original cultivators had been killed. Apart from the cultivators who were far away from the battlefield, all cultivators below the first step immortal realm, including half-immortals, had been killed. Not a single one was left. Even first step immortals and half-immortals had died. Less than half of the 100,000 one-step immortals were left. Many of the half-immortals had died, but most of them were still alive. There were about 7,000 to 8,000 of them. Only 40 to 50,000 remained out of the several million that had fallen. This chaotic battle was truly incomparably tragic. Mountains were flattened, and blood flowed like rivers. There were pieces of flesh everywhere, and the pungent smell of blood spread far and wide. The blood formed a river that flowed slowly into the distance. It was terrifying, more terrifying than any other battle in the mortal world. At the sight of this, even Murong Yu's expression couldn't help changing. It was too tragic. Murong Yu's expression only changed, but he did not sympathize with these people. After all, this was the cultivation world. In a world where the strong were respected, death was death. The weak were prey to the strong. This was the law of the world. Those who died were killed because they wanted to obtain a spot on the Immortal Ascension stage. However, they were not strong enough. At this moment, the battle was still ongoing. Who knew how many spots there were for the Immortal Ascension stage? The cultivators could only kill. 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 In the chaotic battle, first step immortals and half-immortals began to die in large numbers. There were still 40,000 cultivators left. 30,000 cultivators left. 20,000 cultivators left. Finally, the millions of cultivators have been reduced to around 20,000. These are the most powerful cultivators in the cultivation world. Those who had survived the battle of tens of thousands of cultivators were extremely powerful. Millions of cultivators have died. The overall strength of the cultivation world has dropped by a few levels. This thought came to the minds of those who were far away from the Immortal Ascension stage. However, there were no external enemies in the cultivation world. Even if the overall strength of the cultivation world decreased, it was not a big deal. After all, almost every sect had suffered heavy losses. However, it would take hundreds of thousands of years, or even millions of years, for it to recover its vitality. whoosh. Finally, one of the cultivators managed to knock back his opponent with a single punch. With a flash of his body, he dashed onto the immortal ascension platform. Seeing this, countless cultivators immediately locked onto him. Suddenly, countless power poured down, trying to destroy this half-step celestial. However, what surprised them was that when their attacks came close to the immortal ascension stage, they could not penetrate it no matter how hard they tried. An invisible force erupted from the immortal ascension stage, blocking everyone's attacks. Everyone was stunned. In reality, they had already realized that their powers could not reach the immortal ascension stage. After all, even the attacks of millions of people could not damage the immortal ascension stage, let alone 20,000 of them. However, they had previously sealed the area around the immortal ascension platform with their powers. Not a single cultivator had been able to break through the seal and enter the immortal ascension platform. Now that the first person had entered the immortal ascension stage, they could not attack. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. In the blink of an eye, some people had already teleported into the immortal ascension stage. Finally, everyone came to their senses. They stopped attacking each other and rushed towards the immortal ascension stage. In the blink of an eye, all 20,000 people had entered the immortal ascension stage. After all, the immortal ascension stage was hundreds of miles wide. It could easily accommodate hundreds of thousands of people, let alone 20,000. At the end of the sky above the immortal ascension stage, there was still a vast, hazy world. However, to the disappointment of these cultivators, even though they had entered the immortal ascension stage, there was no reaction from it. Have we been tricked? Everyone looked at each other in confusion. Or are there too many of us? In an instant, countless cultivators looked at the people around them with hostility. Waves of terrifying energy emanated from their bodies. A chaotic battle was about to begin. After all, the immortal ascension stage had not appeared in the cultivation world for a long time. Although they knew that the immortal ascension stage had opened, they did not know how it would allow them to ascend. Do we just follow the golden light and rush up? Everyone raised their heads and looked at the vast, hazy world at the end of the sky. At the same time, some cultivators had already leaped into the sky and flew towards the top. No one hesitated. Everyone leaped into the sky and rushed towards the world at the end of the sky. If that was the immortal realm, they would eventually enter the immortal realm through the golden light. Rumble. However, at this moment, there was a loud explosion at the end of the sky above the immortal ascension stage. After the loud explosion, a vast aura, which was many times more powerful than that of an half-step immortal, burst out and suppressed the entire world. The violent aura came crashing down like a stormy sea. Under the effect of this terrifying aura, the sky was constantly being destroyed. Puff, puff, puff. The first to bear the brunt of the aura were the cultivators who had rushed to the front. Under the pressure, they all spat out blood and were violently pressed down from the sky. Not only these people, but all the cultivators on the immortal ascension stage were also suppressed by this terrifying aura. All of them were blasted down from the sky. Some of the weaker cultivators were even coughing up blood. Only the giant ape king and the others could withstand this terrifying aura. However, when they saw the strange changes on the immortal ascension stage, their expressions turned ugly. They did not force their way up, but instead landed on the immortal ascension stage. What a terrifying aura! When the cultivators who were far away from the immortal ascension stage felt the aura pressing down on them, their expressions changed. They could not help but be pressed to the ground, unable to continue flying. This is the aura of an immortal. Murong Yu's expression changed drastically. When he had fought with Xuechun, he had sensed this aura from Xuechun. However, the aura on Xuechun's body was not even 1% of the aura of an immortal. Could it be that an immortal has descended? All the cultivators looked up at the sky. They all knew that if even a half-step immortal could not withstand this aura, who else could it be but an immortal? Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. At the end of the sky above the immortal ascension stage, in a hazy world, many figures suddenly rushed out from the depths of the world. Just as these people rushed out of the hazy world, an even more terrifying aura suddenly erupted at this moment. All the cultivators in the cultivation world felt a terrifying force acting on them. At this moment, all the cultivators, including the mortals in the mortal world, no matter if they were cultivating, in seclusion, fighting, eating, etc., when this terrifying aura descended, everyone was forced to prostrate themselves on the ground. The stronger one was, the greater the pressure they felt. Is this the end of the world? Everyone was horrified, not knowing what to do. This was especially so for the mortals in the mortal world. They were so scared that their faces turned pale. They thought that the end of the world had come. However, the cultivators knew that this was a powerful and terrifying aura. However, they did not know what kind of existence could emit such a terrifying aura. Fortunately, this terrifying aura was retracted the moment it appeared. At this moment, countless cultivators near the immortal ascension stage watched as it rose into the sky. More than a dozen figures were flying down from the sky at high speed. Although they had already retracted their auras, they still vaguely emitted an aura that shattered the void around them. It was extremely terrifying. Immortals! At this moment, no one doubted the identity of these people. They were all immortals, immortals who had descended from the immortal world. However, why did immortals set foot in this world? Didn't they say that they could not return to the cultivation world after ascending? After all, immortals were so powerful that they could destroy the cultivation world alone. There must be something in the cultivation world that they need. At this moment, this thought appeared in the minds of all the cultivators. However, the cultivators on the immortal ascension stage did not look too good. They had fought to the death and even killed millions of cultivators. They had thought that they could use the immortal ascension stage to ascend to the immortal world. However, they had never imagined that the immortal ascension stage would not allow them to ascend to the immortal world. Instead, it would allow the immortals from the immortal world to descend. In an instant, these cultivators were filled with murderous intent. If they did not understand the situation, they would have attacked these immortals. Is this the cultivation world? These ants are so weak. More than 10 immortals descended on the immortal ascension stage and looked down at the cultivators on the immortal ascension stage. One of the immortals said with disdain, Ants will always be ants. How dare you show your killing intent to me? You must have a death wish. Perhaps sensing the killing intent of the cultivators, the young immortal snorted coldly and waved his sleeve. Instantly, a terrifying force shot out. Bang, bang, bang. Almost at the same time, the bodies of 3 half-step immortals on the immortal ascension stage exploded. These were half-step immortals, the most powerful beings in the cultivation world. They had survived the chaotic battle of millions of cultivators. However, they had been killed by this immortal with a wave of his hand. It was not that they were too weak, but that the immortal was too strong. Was there such a huge gap between half-step immortals and real immortals? In an instant, all the cultivators were shocked. The killing intent in their hearts surged. However, all of them forcefully suppressed the killing intent in their hearts. Ants will always be ants. You may be the most powerful beings in the cultivation world, but in front of us, you are still ants. You're like dogs. Killing you will be as easy as slaughtering dogs. The immortal who had spoken earlier looked at all the cultivators indifferently and continued. So, don't try to resist us. Otherwise, we will kill you like ants. You may have been the overlords of the cultivation world in the past, but from today onwards, we are the rulers of this world. Don't try to resist. I can kill you with a wave of my hand. Another immortal said disdainfully. Chapter 315. Which of the cultivators on the Immortal Ascension platform was not a powerful cultivator? Which cultivator in the cultivation world did not look up to them? But now, these immortals from the immortal realm were openly looking down on them, trampling them, who were high and mighty, to the ground. How could these people tolerate this? Those who had cultivated to their level were all proud and arrogant existences. Now that they were suddenly asked to acknowledge these immortals as their masters, this was simply impossible. However, the immortals were powerful and had more than 10 people. The giant ape king and the others were no match for them. Of course, if there were only 1 or 2 immortals, the giant ape king and the others would have attacked them. Seeing that the giant ape king and the others did not react and remained silent, the immortals' faces darkened. They did not have a high status in the immortal world and could even be considered the lowest level of immortals. But in the cultivation world, even half-step immortals could only lower their proud heads in front of them. Their strength was enough to sweep across the cultivation world. Therefore, when they arrived in the cultivation world, they were arrogant. They desperately wanted the thrill of controlling everything. You don't agree? One of the immortals stepped forward and released a terrifying aura. It suppressed the cultivators on the Immortal Ascension platform so much that they could not even lift their heads. No one uttered a word, and they all fell silent. The atmosphere was very tense. However, the cultivators were angry at the immortals' aura. Usually, they were the ones who suppressed others. How could these immortals suppress them? Therefore, killing intent surged in their hearts. However, they concealed it well. You are courting death. Seeing the crowd's reaction, the immortals were furious. One of the immortals snorted and struck out with his palm at lightning speed. With a bang, a powerful half-step immortal in the crowd was smashed into a cloud of blood mist. He could not be more dead. Seeing this, the cultivators could no longer hide their killing intent. It exploded and shot into the sky. Usually, they would fight to the death. However, it was a fight between their own people. The one who died could only blame himself for not being strong enough. However, the immortals they were facing now were their common enemies because they were all outsiders. No matter how fiercely they fought, when these immortals started to attack them, they would join forces to fight back. Because these immortals were the common enemy of the cultivation world. An ant-like existence dares to reveal killing intent towards us. Fine, I'll kill all of you today. There's no need for this cultivation world to continue existing. One of the immortals was enraged. A powerful aura was constantly emitted from his body, and an intense killing intent soared into the sky. Upon hearing the immortal's words, Murong Yu and the others were shocked. They didn't take the immortal's words as a joke. With the strength of these immortals, it was highly possible that they could destroy the cultivation world. A few mere immortals want to destroy the cultivation world? What shameless boasting. The cultivators on the Immortal Ascension platform were enraged by the immortal's words. The giant ape king lifted his head and looked at the immortals with disdain. It's over. Why is the giant ape king standing out? When Murong Yu saw the giant ape king's reaction, he turned pale with fright. As for the little ape king, his face was pale with fright. One of the immortals took a step forward, and a violent force shook the void, causing some of the first-step immortals to cough up blood. He looked at the giant ape king coldly, with a disdainful smile. Since that's the case, you can die. As he spoke, the immortal gently struck out with his palm. It slowly imprinted itself on the giant ape king, as if it was harmless. The giant ape king's expression changed. He didn't think that the immortal's light palm was harmless. If the immortal's palm landed on his body, even if the giant ape king was a peak half-step immortal, he would probably be smashed into dust. Even so, the giant ape king didn't react. He only looked at the immortal with disdain. Seeing the giant ape king's disdainful expression, the immortal flew into a rage. With their status in the immortal world, they were often looked down upon with disdain. However, that was the immortal world after all. Who asked them to have such low cultivation levels? However, when they arrived in the immortal world, they were still looked down upon and looked down upon. How could they not be angry? The immortal's killing intent soared, and his large palm struck the giant ape king like lightning. At this moment, the little ape king almost cried out in alarm. The expressions of Murong Yu and the others changed drastically. Grandfather, giant ape king, Everyone cried out in alarm, just as the giant ape king was about to die under the immortal's large palm. Oomph! A cold snort suddenly sounded from afar. Almost at the same time, the immortal's palm that was about to strike the giant ape king seemed to be blocked by someone, and it couldn't move an inch forward. A bang sounded from the immortal's body. The immortal's body trembled violently, as if he was struck by a force or an electric current. The immortal groaned and actually took a few steps back. Murong Yu and the others saw a trace of blood flowing out from the corner of the immortal's mouth. This immortal was actually injured by the impact. Seeing this scene, whether it was the immortal or Murong Yu and the others were all shocked. That was an immortal. Although he was the most ordinary immortal in the immortal world, this was not the immortal world, but the immortal world. With their strength, they could definitely sweep through the entire immortal world. But now they were injured by someone. With just a cold snort, they were injured. To injure an immortal so easily, could it be that there was someone in the immortal world who was stronger than him? Murong Yu and the other cultivators were extremely shocked, but the immortals were furious. They had never thought that there would be immortals in the immortal world, and that there would be someone who was much stronger than them. This was especially true for the immortal who had been knocked back. At this moment, he was looking around in bewilderment, and his eyes were filled with resentment. At the same time, a breath that was like a spring breeze suddenly swept through the area like water ripples. In that instant, the terrifying aura of the immortals disappeared without a trace. Without the terrifying pressure from the immortals, Murong Yu and the others no longer had to resist the pressure and naturally stood up. At the same time, the cultivators on the Immortal Ascension stage all used teleportation and left the stage. Being in the same place as these people who were much stronger than them was still quite a bit of pressure. Moreover, these immortals were too arrogant. They attacked at the slightest provocation, making the cultivators feel that their lives were in serious danger. So, there's an exalted immortal senior here. We have been presumptuous and offended you. One of the immortals, who seemed to be the leader, looked around. When he saw that there was no one, he bowed and said in a low voice. However, there was no response from the surrounding people. It was as if the person who had saved the giant ape king did not exist. However, these immortals did not think that person did not exist. After all, a cultivator who could injure a heavenly immortal with just a cold snort was definitely much stronger than them. Although they had descended from the immortal world and their strength had been suppressed to a certain extent to be able to injure them with just a sound, this person was at least an exalted immortal. That was an expert who could easily kill them. Seeing that there was no response, the leader of the immortals was enraged. When he thought of the person behind him, the immortals could not help but become arrogant again. So what if he was an exalted immortal? Was he a match for that person? This was merely the immortal world. Did they dare to go against that person? Senior, you are indeed stronger than us. However, we have come to the immortal world on the orders of our sect master. Please don't make things difficult for us. The leader of the immortals suppressed his anger and spoke again in a low voice. However, the surroundings were still silent. The expert who had attacked earlier still did not raise his head. This infuriated many of the immortals. Although they were not strong, the Black Civ sect was not a small sect in the immortal world. Moreover, they had a perfected golden immortal in charge. This time, they had come to the lower realm on the orders of their sect master, a perfected golden immortal. A perfected golden immortal was an expert even in the immortal world. Our sect master is a perfected golden immortal. This time, we have come to the lower realm on the orders of our sect master. Please don't stop us. Otherwise, you will have to bear the consequences. One of the immortals stepped forward and spoke coldly. Are you threatening me? A calm voice sounded. Almost at the same time, the threatening immortal seemed to have suffered a heavy blow. His entire body was sent flying, and he spat out a mouthful of blood in the air. Seeing this, the expressions of the immortals changed greatly. At this moment, they no longer doubted the strength of this mysterious expert. Murong Yu and the others were different from the other immortals. When they saw these insufferably arrogant experts spit out blood from the shock of a single voice, they felt extremely pleased. This world is my world. I do not wish for anyone to cause destruction here. Otherwise, I will kill without mercy. The calm voice sounded, and the immortal's expressions changed again. You can search for what you need in the immortal world. However, if I find out that you have willfully killed the innocent and destroyed the immortal world, you will never be able to return to the immortal world. Although the voice was calm, the immortal's expressions were extremely unsightly. They all knew that with the strength of this mysterious expert, killing them would be a piece of cake. However, when they thought of their mission, their expressions became even more unsightly. Originally, if this mysterious expert had not interfered, they would have been able to complete their mission quickly. However, with this mysterious expert's presence, they did not dare to act wantonly in the immortal world, let alone attack the sections. This undoubtedly increased the difficulty of their mission. Chapter 316. The strength of this mysterious expert left the immortals sullen. They were sky immortals of the world of immortals, powerful enough to dominate the entire world of cultivation. In their minds, they should have had limitless glory in the world of cultivation. In their eyes, they should have been nothing more than ants, fawning over them. In this world, they could call the wind and summon the rain. They could do whatever they wanted. Even if they didn't like it, they could destroy the world. However, they never imagined that there would be an ascendant immortal in the world of cultivation, an expert countless times more powerful than they were. With such an expert in this world, they would have to think twice before doing anything. They wouldn't be able to do anything to their heart's content. This was the opposite of their ideal state before they'd entered the world of cultivation. A mere ascendant immortal. If he dares defy the will of the Black Sieve sect, then he'll have to suffer the wrath of Patriarch Black Sieve. Patriarch Black Sieve is a perfected golden immortal. He can destroy this so-called world of cultivation with a single breath. A mere ascendant immortal dares to oppose us? Another immortal said disdainfully. Patriarch Black Sieve was the head of the Black Sieve sect. He was a perfected golden immortal. Even in the world of immortals, he could be considered an expert. However, regardless of whether they were sky immortals, ascendant immortals, or perfected golden immortals, Morong Yu and the others weren't clear on the hierarchy of the world of immortals. After all, they'd never come into contact with the world of immortals. However, based on the words of the two immortals, Patriarch Black Sieve was the head of a sect. How could he be weak? For a moment, the hearts of all the cultivators present sank. After all, their opponent was a sect from the world of immortals. Even if they used all the power of the world of cultivation, they might not necessarily be a match for them. Hichu, what kind of existence is a perfected golden immortal in the world of immortals? Morong, you didn't know the status of a perfected golden immortal in the world of immortals, so he asked Hichu. Hichu's disdainful voice rang out. A perfected golden immortal can barely be considered an expert in the world of immortals. They can establish their own sect, but their strength isn't much. Hearing Hichu's words, Morong Yu despised Hichu. Even in the immortal world, he could be considered an expert. Moreover, he could already establish his own sect. How could such a person's strength not be anything special? Of course, if Zhao Yun was used as a comparison, those people were not even ants. However, compared to Morong Yu's group, it was a supreme existence that the current Morong Yu couldn't even look up to. In the world of cultivation, I am the master. So what if he was a golden immortal? So what if he was a 9 heavens Xian immortal? Since you're in my world, you have to abide by my rules. That faint voice slowly sounded, containing a strong sense of disdain. 9 heavens Xian immortal. Judging from this voice, it seemed that the 9 heavens Xian immortal was above the zenith heaven golden immortal. It was just that this mysterious powerhouse held them in disdain. Could it be that this mysterious expert was even stronger than the 9 heavens Xian immortal? What realm was that? Murong couldn't help but be very curious. Who exactly was this mysterious expert? Someone who held the 9 heavens, Xian immortal in disdain. How strong and terrifying was he? It wasn't just Murong and the others. The other cultivators of the immortal world were also excited. They didn't know that there was such a powerful expert in their world. A super expert that even the Zenith Heaven Golden Immortals and the 9 heavens Xian Immortals disdained. With such an expert as the protector of the immortal world, how could they be afraid of these people from the immortal world? For a moment, each and every one of them stood ramrod straight and looked at the immortals. With such an expert supporting them, if they couldn't stand ramrod straight, it would be too shameful. They were greedy for life and afraid of death. Sir, you talk big. Don't tell me that your little immortal world dares to oppose the Black Civ sect. You may be the strongest in this world, but if you dare to ascend to the immortal world, it will be your death. An immortal said disdainfully. Perhaps, but in my world, my words are the rules, the calm voice said slowly. At the same time, a large black hand suddenly appeared above the immortal ascension platform and slammed down. Bang! The immortal who'd spoken before didn't even have time to react before he was slapped to death. An immortal was slapped to death by this large hand before he could even react. And the owner of this large hand was the ruler of this world. Seeing this scene, the crowd was shocked and shaken. The cultivators of the immortal world, on the other hand, were overjoyed and relieved of their anger. After all, when these immortals had descended, they'd used their auras to intimidate them. Then, they'd killed a few half-step immortals. This had made them feel extremely sullen. Now, seeing this high and mighty immortal slapped to death with a single slap, how could they not be happy? I don't care why you've come to the immortal world, but I hope you'll follow my rules. Otherwise, I'll kill you without mercy. The calm voice sounded again. This time, the immortals were terrified beyond belief. This person wasn't afraid of Patriarch Qin Luo and could kill them as easily as slaughtering dogs. How could they not be terrified? The immortal ascension platform has already opened. So be it. The mysterious expert sighed, then continued. Giant Ape King, you cultivators whose time has come to an end should take this opportunity to go to the immortal world. Those who haven't reached their end should leave. Before he could finish his sentence, Murong, the giant ape king, and a few other experts, who were also emitting death aura, suddenly disappeared from where they stood. They'd been teleported away by the mysterious expert. Perhaps they'd already entered the immortal world. Those from the immortal world cannot interfere in the struggles of the immortal world. Otherwise, they'll be killed without mercy. The mysterious expert's voice sounded from afar, causing the immortals' expressions to change again. However, when the cultivators heard this, they had a different thought. This mysterious expert had always existed in the immortal world, and he'd never interfered in the struggles of the immortal world. And the meaning of his words was very obvious. Those from the immortal world couldn't interfere in the struggles between the immortal world and the immortal world, but the mysterious expert wouldn't interfere. It was as if this mysterious expert's only existence was to protect the immortal world. At the same time, the blinding golden light from the immortal ascension platform disappeared. The hazy world in the sky had vanished as well. It was as if the mysterious expert had severed the connection between the immortal ascension platform and the immortal world. One of their immortals had been killed, and another had been severely injured. The immortals' expressions were ugly. The leader of the immortals harumphed coldly. With a dark expression, he led the remaining immortals away from the Lianluo Mountains, disappearing into the distant horizon. At the same time, Murong felt waves of murderous, intense sweep over him. Murong's face fell. These bastards, they want to attack me. Murong gritted his teeth and cursed. Then, in a flash, he disappeared from where he'd been standing. When they saw Murong disappear, the remaining immortals all rose into the air and flew off into the distance. In an instant, the Lianluo Mountains became desolate. If it weren't for the flattened Lianluo Mountains and the River of Blood, no one would have known that a terrible battle had taken place here. Not long after, the news of the Immortals' arrival and the disappearance of the mysterious expert's protection spread throughout the immortal world. Once again, the immortal world was shaken. I wonder who that mysterious expert is. After learning about this mysterious expert, everyone was trying to guess the identity of this mysterious expert. However, no one knew who this person was. What made them feel at ease was that the mysterious expert didn't interfere with their battles. Although the arrival of the Immortals had shocked the immortal world, under the threat of the mysterious expert, they didn't dare to do anything. As a result, they were gradually forgotten. Of course, no one really forgot about these Immortals. These Immortals had descended from the immortal world. Why would they come to the immortal world? It must be because there was something in the immortal world that they wanted. That was something that even the Immortals coveted. How could the Immortals not be moved? As a result, many people began to inquire about these Immortals. However, these Immortals had fallen silent after coming to the immortal world. Moreover, with their strength, it wasn't easy for the major sects to find out. What is the identity of that mysterious expert? Is he really that powerful? He's not even afraid of the 9 Xian Immortals? In the Hichu Luo Shu, Murong frowned and asked Hichu. That mysterious expert shouldn't be that powerful. As he said, in the immortal world, he is the ruler of this world. Moreover, people from the immortal world can't casually enter the immortal world. Even if a 9 Xian immortal enters the immortal world, his strength will be suppressed to a low level. If that mysterious expert is really the ruler of the immortal world, he can easily kill those immortals with low strength. Murong Yu frowned slightly and pondered for a moment before asking, "You mean that this mysterious expert might be a very powerful immortal world cultivator? And those people from the immortal world are all suppressed to a very low level?" If that was the case, the mysterious expert didn't need to be afraid of them. Even if the legendary immortal emperor entered the immortal world, he might not be the mysterious expert's opponent. That's right. Hichu nodded. Who is that mysterious expert? Why does he claim to be the ruler of the immortal world? Murong Yu was still curious about the mysterious expert's identity. People from the immortal world could have their cultivation suppressed. Why wasn't he suppressed? Moreover, this was the first time he heard that there was such a powerful expert in the immortal world. However, these were not things that Murong Yu could know at the moment. This time, he had killed so many experts. Those major sects would definitely have countless experts hunting him down. Moreover, there were immortals in the immortal world. My strength is still not enough. I need to improve my strength first. Murong Yu muttered to himself, and then appeared in the extreme heaven realm. Chapter 3:17. The Immortals' arrival at the Immortal Ascension platform had greatly shocked everyone in the cultivation world. Half-step Immortals were like ants in front of true Immortals. Those Immortals were the weakest in the immortal world, the most ordinary celestial Immortals. Murong Yu was already shocked by the Immortals. But what shocked Murong Yu the most was the mysterious expert, the ruler of the cultivation world in Huaxia. He didn't even know where he was, but he'd been able to severely injure an immortal with just a snort. He was much stronger than those immortals. Murong Yu suspected that the mysterious expert hadn't been there at the time, but had been in some unknown corner of the cultivation world. The strength of the immortals and the mysterious expert stimulated Murong Yu, making him even more determined to become stronger. Before, he'd already had the strength to fight a one-step immortal, and he'd even been able to kill one on his own. Before the arrival of the Immortals, Murong Yu had been quite proud. After all, no one at his age had been able to kill a one-step immortal. Murong Yu had once thought that he could be considered an expert, but the appearance of the Immortals and the mysterious expert had completely shattered Murong Yu's pride. Murong Yu wasn't even a match for the weakest half-step immortals, let alone the Immortals. Or was it the mysterious expert? If there's a mysterious expert in the cultivation world, is there a second one like him? Who are they? Almost all the top experts in the cultivation world have gathered near the Immortal Ascension platform. But Li Su and Little Peng King, who are ranked first on the Dragon Phoenix list, haven't shown up. Are they disdainful, or are they cultivating in seclusion? Murong, you could faintly sense that the strength of these two mysterious young experts wasn't weak. At the very least, Murong, you felt that he wasn't a match for them with his current strength. Strength. I wonder how strong I'll be after I pass the 49 heavenly tribulations. Under the stimulation of the mysterious expert and the immortal, Murong, you deeply realized that he was not strong enough. With his current strength, it would be extremely difficult to kill Zushenzong and the others. Although I won't be disturbed by others during my 4-9 heavenly tribulation, it's better for me to do it in the extreme celestial realm. Murong, you appeared in the void above the extreme celestial realm. No one would be able to disturb him while he was transcending the 4-9 heavenly tribulation. However, Murong, you was still very careful and chose to transcend the tribulation in the extreme celestial realm. I wonder how powerful my heavenly tribulation is. With a thought from Murong, you, all 100,000 members of Primal Chaos were teleported out from the He2 and Luobook worlds. Looking at the densely packed people on the ground, Murong, you smiled. The reason why he let these people come out of the Hichu Luoshu world was because Murong, you wanted them to see his heavenly tribulation. With a single thought, Murong, you instantly unsealed his power. Suddenly, a monstrous aura erupted from his body like a stormy sea. The terrifying power caused the surrounding members of Chaos to continuously retreat. The trees and the mountains were destroyed. Some mountains were even directly crushed by the terrifying aura. Countless demon beasts fled in panic. Rumble. Just as Murong, you raised his aura to the limit, the world trembled. Then, a golden stairway to heaven appeared in front of Murong, you out of thin air. This was a golden stairway to heaven that was hundreds of miles wide. It was tens or hundreds of times bigger than other cultivators' stairways to heaven. A shocking aura was emitted from the stairway to heaven, causing the nearby members of Chaos to continuously retreat. What a magnificent stairway to heaven! Seeing the stairway to heaven, Zhang Ao and the others were dumbfounded. They were all transformation stage cultivators and had also read about the 4-9 heavenly tribulation. However, their stairway to heaven was far more shocking than Murong Yu's stairway to heaven. Leader is indeed the leader. His stairway to heaven is hundreds of times more shocking than ours. Looking at the stairway to heaven, all the members of Chaos had a trace of brilliance in their eyes. Murong had shocked them. Rumble. At the same time as the stairway to heaven appeared, above the 9 heavens, at the end of the stairway to heaven, an incomparably huge immortal gate that was tens of thousands of miles wide appeared out of thin air. Seeing the immortal gate that was tens of thousands of miles wide, all the members of Chaos and even the awakened demon kings in the extreme heaven realm were dumbfounded. At this moment, in the cultivation world outside the extreme heaven realm, rumble, a series of dull and loud sounds came from the 9 heavens. A powerful and vast, yet gentle aura swept across the cultivation world in the blink of an eye. At this moment, some cultivators were shocked to see a stairway to heaven that was hundreds of miles wide appearing out of thin air, traversing between heaven and earth. What a huge stairway to heaven! For some reason, no matter where they were in the cultivation world, they saw this incomparably huge stairway to heaven. Who's transcending tribulation? The stairway to heaven is hundreds of miles wide. Seeing this huge stairway to heaven, those cultivators, including first-step immortals, half-step immortals, and even some immortals, were stunned. There's actually such a powerful person in the cultivation world. More than a dozen immortals looked at each other, extremely shocked and even shocked. As immortals, although they were the lowest level heaven immortals, they were still immortals after all. Their knowledge and experience were not comparable to the cultivators in the cultivation world. However, even they were shocked, let alone those in the cultivation world. Especially those who had already transcended the 4 and 9 heavenly tribulation, they were even more depressed. When I transcended tribulation, the stairway to heaven was only the size of an ordinary stairway. Some expert stairways were only a few meters wide, but this stairway to heaven is hundreds of miles wide. And Half-Step, immortal, thought gloomily as his eyes flickered. He was not the only one who thought so. Everyone else had the same thought. Rumble, when they saw the stairway to heaven, they were already very shocked. However, the appearance of the immortal gate that was tens of thousands of miles wide completely shocked these cultivators and immortals. A immortal gate that was tens of thousands of miles wide meant that each gate was 5,000 miles wide. 5,000 miles. What kind of concept was that? It would take an ordinary person several months to walk. Damn it. A immortal gate that's tens of thousands of miles wide. Is this the 4 and 9 heavenly tribulation? Everyone was shocked by the appearance of this huge immortal gate. Even the immortals were dumbfounded by this development. After a long time, the leading immortal cursed angrily. Unexpectedly, someone's immortal gate was tens of thousands of miles wide. This was unheard of. When an ordinary person transcends tribulation, their immortal gate is about the same size as an ordinary gate. This immortal gate is tens of thousands of miles wide. Who on earth is transcending tribulation? Those cultivators who had already transcended tribulation looked at this immortal gate and felt great pressure. Haha, there's actually such a monstrous existence in the cultivation world. I wonder if he has the ability to blast open the immortal gate. Everyone was first shocked by the stairway to heaven and the immortal gate. Then, after coming to their senses, they began to rejoice in other people's misfortune. Generally speaking, the immortal gate that appeared when a cultivator transcended tribulation was the size of an ordinary gate. However, even though it was such a small immortal gate, the cultivators were only barely able to open a crack, even after using all their strength. The size of the immortal gate meant that the difficulty of breaking it open was also greater. A immortal gate that was tens of thousands of miles wide was more than 100,000 miles tall. How much power would it take to break open such a thick and heavy immortal gate? Of course, if one could break it open, even if it was just a crack, it would still be much more powerful than if all the other cultivators opened their immortal gates. Even if it was just a crack, the amount of immortal chi that leaked out would be as vast as the ocean. If he could blast open the immortal gate, then it wouldn't take long for Murong Yu's body to be completely refined and transformed into an immortal physique, allowing him to ascend to the immortal realm. No matter what, we have to get this person to join the Black Civ sect. Otherwise, we'll have to kill him. The immortals stared at the stairway to heaven and the immortal gate in a daze. After a long time, the leader of the immortal gate spoke calmly. Such a monstrous genius was certain to be extremely powerful in the future. Therefore, they had to rope Murong Yu into the Black Civ sect before he fully matured. Given enough time, it was possible that Murong Yu would surpass Patriarch Black Civ. If they couldn't get him to join the Black Civ sect, then they would kill him. After all, no one wanted to see such a monstrous genius grow. The ultimate celestial realm. Murong Yu looked at the enormous immortal gate, his face heavy. He wanted to cry. Such an enormous immortal gate was truly shocking. It was unprecedented and would never be replicated in the future. But how could he break open the immortal gate? Perhaps the immortals would be able to break it open. Murong Yu thought to himself gloomily. If he couldn't break open the immortal gate, then there wouldn't be any immortal chi to temper his body, and he wouldn't be able to ascend. Idiot! Seeing Murong Yu's dismay, Hichu couldn't help but shout angrily at him. You have the chaotic body physique. You're millions of times stronger than those immortal physiques. You don't even need to transform. Murong Yu stared blankly for a moment, then reacted. Doesn't that mean I don't even need to transcend the tribulation? Of course. Hichu continued, exasperated. So long as you're strong enough, you can tear open the void and enter the immortal realm. There's no need for the immortal realm to receive you. Given the speed at which you're growing, It won't take long for you to reach that stage. Hearing that, Muron Yu's heart immediately relaxed. He'd been so worried that he wouldn't be able to break open the immortal gate. If he couldn't ascend, then that would be truly tragic. But Muron Yu lifted his head to look at the stairway to heaven and the enormous immortal gate. Gradually, a smile spread across his face. Since the 49 heavenly tribulation has appeared, I'll have to try. Ascending the stairway to heaven has 100 advantages and no disadvantages. Muron Yu decided to attempt the legendary stairway to heaven. Who knows, maybe he'd be able to break open the immortal gate. At the very least, he'd be able to use the tribulation lightning to temper his body. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.